his pretty virus written and narrated by Moonbeam Audiobook 2.0. What happens when an immovable object meets an unstoppable force? Luca Vitti rules Las Vegas with an iron fist, but his empire is brought to its knees by a genius hacker named Elena. This isn't just a romance, it's a chess match. This is a story about two broken people learning that trust is more dangerous and more rewarding than power.
Chapter 1. Luca. Blood never bothered me. It was a currency I spent and earned with the rising sun. Incompetence was a sin I refused to forgive. The server room hummed with a low electric vibration that usually signaled the quiet efficiency of my empire. Tonight, it sounded like a death rattle. 3 monitors flashed a violent crimson. The bloody glow cast harsh shadows over the pale, sweating face of my lead technician. He typed frantically. His fingers slipped on the keys and created a staccato rhythm of pure panic. Fix it. My voice did not need volume to carry weight. It cut through the whir of the cooling fans like a serrated blade. I cannot do it, Don Vitti. The technician refused to turn around. His shoulders hunched up toward his ears as if he expected a bullet to enter the base of his skull. The encryption shifts too fast. Whoever the Bratva hired to lock us out knows our architecture better than we do. They are scrubbing the security footage of the loading dock while simultaneously locking down the elevator protocols. If they get into the personnel files before I regain access, we lose the undercover list. A heavy silence settled in the room. It felt suffocating and thick. My knuckles turned white where I gripped the edge of the steel console. We had 45 minutes before the encryption key locked permanently. If that happened, I would not be running a $1 billion syndicate anymore. I would be burying bodies. Get out of the chair. The tech scrambled up. He nearly tripped over his own feet to vacate the seat. I turned to Dante. My head of security stood by the door like a granite statue in a Brioni suit. He checked his watch. His expression betrayed nothing, though the slight tick in his jaw told me he understood the gravity of the situation. Bring him in. Dante nodded once and stepped into the hallway. 10 minutes. That was the lifespan of my patience. I paced the small freezing room. The blue LEDs of the server racks reflected in the polished tips of my shoes. This life required precision. It demanded absolute control. Yet here I was, waiting on the favor of a man I should have buried in the foundation of this building 5 years ago. Marco Rossi was a disease. He was a gambling addict with zero loyalty and even less skill. But desperation made men resourceful. The door hissed open. Dante returned, dragging a man by the collar of his cheap leather jacket. Marco Rossi fell to his knees on the anti-static floor. He smelled of stale bourbon and fear. Where is the asset, Marco? Marco looked up. Sweat beaded on his upper lip. She is outside. She is here. Bring her. Dante stepped back out. Marco scrambled to his feet, but a look from me pinned him back to the floor. She is the best, Luca. I swear it. She creates code like Mozart wrote symphonies. If she fails, I take your fingers first, then your tongue. The door opened again. Dante shoved a figure into the room. She stumbled. Her sneakers squeaked against the floor. This was the asset. She looked like she had been dragged out of bed and through a hedge. An oversized gray hoodie swallowed her frame. The sleeves pulled down over her hands, so only her fingertips were visible. Loose strands of ink-black hair escaped a messy bun. They framed a face that was too pale and too sharp and entirely too young. She did not look like a savior. She looked like a victim. Marco scrambled toward her. Elena, do what they say. Please." She adjusted her glasses. The thick frames slid down her nose. She looked past her groveling father and stared directly at the wall of red monitors. Her eyes were not fearful. They were analytical. She was assessing the damage. "Elena isn't it?" I asked. She flinched then. A microscopic jerk of her head. "The servers." Her voice rasped rough with sleep or disuse. "You have a polymorphic worm eating through your firewall. It is rewriting the admin privileges. Can you stop it?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes were a startling, vibrant green, the color of envy and money, intelligent, sharp. Underneath the intelligence sat a deep, simmering resentment that mirrored my own. If I stop it, my father lives. For today. She did not waste time negotiating. She did not ask for money or safety or a thank you. She dropped her backpack to the floor with a heavy thud and took the seat the previous tech had vacated. Her hands emerged from the sleeves of her hoodie. Slender, delicate fingers hovered over the keyboard for a split second before they began to fly. The sound was different this time. It was not the frantic pecking of a desperate man. It was a symphony. A fluid, constant stream of commands entered at a speed that blurred. Code cascaded down the center screen. It replaced the angry red warning boxes with lines of white text. She did not hesitate. She did not pause to think. She attacked the keyboard with a violence that fascinated me. I watched the reflection of the code in her glasses. She bit her lower lip. A drop of blood surfaced where the skin cracked. "You have a back door in your HVAC system," she muttered, not looking away from the screen. "That is how they got in. Rookie mistake. Who set up your architecture?" "A dead man." She did not react to the threat. Her fingers hit the enter key with a final decisive snap. The monitors flickered. The red washed away. It was replaced by the soothing, steady green of a secure system. "Done," she said. The silence in the room shifted. The tension did not leave, but it changed flavor. Before it was the panic of impending doom. Now it was the heavy, predatory weight of opportunity. Dante checked the main console. She is right. The breach is sealed. The footage is scrubbed. The personnel files are locked. I looked at the clock. 4 minutes to spare. She spun the chair around to face me. She looked exhausted. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath her eyes. Her hoodie hung off one shoulder, revealing a collarbone that looked fragile enough to snap. Marco Rossi was a leech, a parasite. He offered nothing of value to the world. But this girl. She stood up and grabbed her backpack. "I did what you asked. I am leaving." I moved faster than her. It was easy. I blocked the door. My body formed a solid wall of bespoke wool and muscle. You assumed the transaction was finished. She took a step back. Her chin tilted up. "It is. You said if I fixed it, you would not hurt him. I said I would forget the interest for the month. I did not say you could leave." Her breath hitched. A pulse fluttered wildly in her throat, betraying the calm facade she tried to maintain. "What do you want?" "Marco owes me $4 million, Elena. Do you have $4 million in that backpack?" "Number." "Then we have a problem. Your father has nothing left to leverage. He has no property. He has no cash. He has no friends." I took a step toward her. She held her ground, though I saw her hands curl into fists at her sides. "He has nothing," I repeated. I lowered my voice until it was a rough whisper that seemed to vibrate against her skin. "Except you." "I am not collateral," she snapped. The fire in her tone surprised me. It pleased me. You are now. I signaled Dante. Dante moved behind her, blocking her retreat. You have a skill set I require. My previous expert had an unfortunate accident. You pointed out a flaw in my HVAC system. You are going to fix it, and then you are going to fix every other hole in my digital fortress. And if I refuse, then I foreclose on the debt. And Marco stops breathing. She stared at me. Hatred radiated off her in waves. It was potent, visceral. Most women looked at me with lust or fear. Elena Rossi looked at me like she wanted to dissect me and leave the pieces in the sun. You do not understand, she said. Her voice dropped lower. I did not remove the virus. I froze. Explain. It is too advanced to remove in 10 minutes. If I tried to delete it, the worm would have triggered a kill switch and wiped your drives. My hand twitched toward the gun in my holster. So what did you do? I built a cage. She pointed a trembling finger at the screen. I wrote a quarantine algorithm. It wraps around the virus and tricks it into thinking it is still working. But the cage degrades. How fast? 24 hours. The air left the room. Every 24 hours, the code needs to be rewritten. She continued. It needs to be patched manually. If I miss a cycle, the cage breaks. The virus wakes up, and you lose everything. A smile ghosted my lips. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a wolf that had just cornered a rabbit only to realize the rabbit had sharp teeth. She had not just fixed my problem. She had put a leash on it, and she held the handle. You thought this would give you leverage. I stepped closer until the heat of her body radiated against mine. You thought you could walk out of here and negotiate from a distance. I thought I could save my father without becoming a prisoner. You calculated wrong. I looked at Dante. Take Marco to the basement. Keep him comfortable but secure. If the system crashes, Marco pays the price. Marco started to scream as Dante hauled him up. Elena lunged forward, but I caught her arm. Her bicep felt thin and tense under the rough cotton of her hoodie. Let him go, she hissed. He is your insurance policy. As long as that code holds, he breathes. Dante dragged Marco out. The heavy steel door slammed shut, sealing us in the cold blue light. You stay here, I told her. Wait. Panic finally cracked her voice. I need my things. My laptop. My clothes. I will buy you new clothes. As for the laptop, I nodded at the sleek military-grade terminal she had just used. You use mine. I do not trust tools I do not own. She yanked her arm away. I can walk. She brushed past me. Her shoulder grazed my chest. A spark of static electricity snapped between us, sharp and surprising. I watched her walk toward the door. The oversized hoodie swallowed her form. Her spine remained stiff with defiance. Marco Rossi had made a mistake sending her here. He thought he was buying time. He had just handed me the weapon that would eventually destroy him. But until then, she was mine. Every 24 hours, she belonged to me.
Chapter 2. Elena. The elevator ascent felt less like transportation and more like a decompression chamber. My ears popped 3 times. The sensation mirrored the pressure building behind my ribs. We rose past the casino floors, past the high roller suites, and into the rarefied air where oxygen cost extra. Dante stood by the brushed steel doors. He checked his phone. He ignored the way I leaned against the back wall to keep my knees from buckling. The adrenaline from the server room had soured into a shaky, cold exhaustion. I calculated the floors. 40, 45, 50. No keycard access. biometric scanners on the panel, retinal and voice print. The security architecture was impressive. Paranoid, the doors hissed open. The air in the penthouse hit me first. It was aggressively cool and smelled of sandalwood and ozone. A wall of glass spanned the entire length of the room. The Las Vegas skyline bled neon across the polished black marble floors. It did not look like a home. It looked like a museum dedicated to masculinity and money. I stepped out. My sneakers squeaked against the marble. The sound was an insult to the silence. "Welcome to the fortress," Dante said. "Do not touch the art. Do not approach the windows. Do not try the front door." I turned to look at the elevator. The panel was already dark. Locked from the outside, I guessed. Locked from everywhere. Movement near the fireplace drew my attention. A fire roared behind a glass screen despite the desert heat outside. Luca Vitti stood there. He had removed his suit jacket. His white dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, and the sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and dusted with dark hair. He held a crystal tumbler of amber liquid in one hand. He looked like a king surveying his newest acquisition. "Come here." The command was soft. It pulled at my spine. I walked toward him. I kept my backpack clutched to my chest like a shield. He took a sip of his drink. His gaze dropped to my gray hoodie. He frowned. "That needs to go." "It is cold in here. It is climate-controlled to 68 degrees. Perfect for the servers, perfect for focus, perfect for a morgue." I tightened my grip on the bag. "I am keeping my clothes." Luca set the glass down on the mantel. The sound of crystal hitting marble rang out like a bell. He walked toward me. He moved with a predator's grace. Silent. Heavy. He stopped a foot away. The heat radiating off him made a mockery of the room's temperature. "You are not listening, Elena. You entered this building as Marco Rossi's daughter. You dragged the stench of his failure and his cheap cigarettes in here with you. That ends now." He reached out. I flinched back. His hand closed around the strap of my backpack. He didn't yank it. He just held it. The weight of his grip anchored me to the floor. "Let go. Drop the bag. I have my laptop in there. My drives. We established the rules downstairs. You use my tools." He twisted the strap. The nylon bit into my shoulder. I had a choice. Dislocate my shoulder or let go. I let go. The bag hit the floor. Luca kicked it aside. He didn't even look at it. His eyes were locked on my face. They tracked the fatigue bruising my skin. They noted the pulse hammering in my throat. "Now the hoodie. Number." "This isn't a negotiation. Why does it matter what I wear?" "I am here to code, not to model. It matters because I own the environment, and everything in it." He stepped closer. His chest brushed the front of my sweatshirt. The contact sent a jolt of panic straight to my stomach. He smelled of expensive whiskey and danger. "Take it off, Elena." Or I cut it off. He meant it. I saw the resolve in the hard line of his jaw, the absolute certainty in his green eyes. He would strip me right here in front of Dante if I pushed him. My hands shook as I reached for the hem. I hated him. The hate was a hot, living thing in my chest. It was the only thing keeping me warm. I pulled the hoodie over my head. The cool air bit into my skin. Underneath, I wore a thin, worn tank top that had seen better days. It offered zero protection. Luca took the hoodie from my hand. He didn't fold it. He turned and walked to the fireplace. He opened the glass screen and tossed the gray fabric onto the flames. I gasped. That was my favorite. Now it is ash. The fire caught the cotton. It curled and blackened. My scent, my history, my armor, gone in seconds. Dante cleared his throat by the door. Luca didn't turn. "Show her the room. Ensure she changes into something appropriate. Burn the rest of her things. Wait, my jeans, my sneakers, everything. Luca said to the fire. I wanted to scream. I wanted to claw his eyes out. Instead, I turned on my heel and followed Dante. I refused to let Luca see the tears stinging my eyes. He wanted to break me down. He wanted to erase Elena Rossi and replace her with a compliant employee. He would find that formatting my drive was harder than he thought. Dante led me down a hallway that was long enough to land a plane on. He stopped at a door and swiped a keycard. The guest suite, he said. Prison cell, I corrected. He almost smiled. Almost. I walked in. The room was larger than my entire apartment. A king-sized bed dominated the center. Another wall of glass offered a view of the strip. On the bed lay a stack of boxes. Black matte boxes with the Vitti logo embossed in silver. Dante stayed at the door. Put those on. The Don expects you at dinner in an hour. I waited for the door to click shut. The lock engaged with a heavy, final thud. I walked to the bed. I ripped the lid off the first box. Silk, black silk, a dress. It looked expensive. It looked like something a mistress would wear to a funeral. I opened the next box. Lingerie, lace, sharp edges and scandalous cuts. He bought my underwear. My face burned. The intimacy of it violated me more than the threats. He had someone guess my size, or maybe he just looked at me and knew. The thought made my skin crawl. I stripped out of my jeans and tank top. I stood naked in the center of the lavish room and felt smaller than I ever had in my life. I put on the silk. It slid over my skin like water. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. The dress had a high neck, but the back was completely open, plunging down to the base of my spine. It was modest and obscene all at once. I walked to the mirror. The woman staring back didn't look like a hacker. She looked like a mafia wife. She looked owned. The door beeped. I spun around. A girl walked in. She looked about 18. She had Luca's dark hair and a pout that could stop traffic. She wore ripped jeans and a t-shirt that said, "Eat the rich." She stopped. She looked me up and down. So you are the debt. I am the IT consultant. She snorted. She walked past me and flopped onto the bed. She pulled a vape pen out of her pocket and took a hit. The smell of strawberry filled the air. Dad burned your clothes, didn't he? Yes. He does that. He thinks branding people makes them loyal. Like cattle. She blew a smoke ring at the ceiling. I am Sophia. Elena. I know, Dante told me. He said you are a genius. Dante talks about me. Dante doesn't talk about anyone. That is why it was weird. She rolled onto her side. Her eyes were green like her father's, but softer. Sadder. Are you going to sleep with him? I choked on air. What? My dad. The last assistant lasted 3 weeks before she was in his bed. Then Mom found out and slashed her tires. It was a whole thing. I am not his assistant, and I would rather sleep with a cactus. Sophia laughed. It was a bright, genuine sound. Good. He needs someone who hates him. It keeps him humble. She sat up. She looked at the laptop sitting on the desk. A brand new Vitti issue terminal. Can you hack the parental controls? Why? Because I am 19 years old and I am not allowed to access Instagram, TikTok, or anything that isn't CNN. He thinks the internet will kidnap me. He is paranoid. He is a control freak. There is a difference. I looked at the terminal. Then I looked at the door. Luca wanted obedience. He wanted a machine that coded on command and looked pretty in his silk. I sat down at the desk. What are you doing? Sophia asked. I woke the screen. My fingers found the home keys. The muscle memory soothed my nerves. If I unlock your social media, he will see the traffic. His packet sniffers are aggressive, so it is impossible. Number 1, I just need to route your connection through a ghost VPN. I can tunnel it through the smart fridge. He won't check the appliance logs. Sophia scrambled off the bed. She leaned over my shoulder. You can do that. I am already doing it. I typed the command lines. The code flowed out of me. It was a language I spoke better than English. I bypassed the Vitti firewall. I created a secure tunnel. Try it now. Sophia pulled out her phone. Her face lit up. Oh my God, I have internet. She hugged me. It was impulsive and tight. You are my hero. The door opened. Luca stood there. He had changed into a fresh black shirt. He looked at Sophia hugging me. He looked at the laptop screen. His eyes narrowed. Dinner, he said. Sophia pulled away. She shoved her phone in her pocket. She looked guilty. I stood up. The silk dress swished around my legs. I raised my chin. Coming. Luca waited until Sophia brushed past him into the hall. Then he blocked my path. He looked at the screen. He saw the command line. You hacked the fridge. The ice maker was communicating with a server in Russia. I fixed it. Liar. Prove it. He stepped into the room. The door clicked shut behind him. The air pressure dropped. You are testing the fence, Elena. You want to see if it shocks you. Does it? He reached out. His hand wrapped around the back of my neck. His thumb pressed against the pulse point under my jaw. His skin was rough, warm. His touch short-circuited my brain. I should have pulled away. I should have kneed him. Instead, I froze. My breath trapped in my lungs. You are smart, he murmured. You are dangerous. But you are in my house. You eat my food. You wear my clothes. He tugged gently on the hair at the nape of my neck. My head tilted back. I was forced to look up at him. Do not corrupt my daughter. She is lonely, Luca. She isn't corrupted. She is bored. His thumb stroked the line of my jaw. It was a caress. It was a threat. And you. Are you bored? I am terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He leaned down. His mouth hovered inches from mine. I could smell the whiskey on his breath. I could count the flecks of gold in his irises. The sexual tension snapped between us like a live wire. My body betrayed me. My ipples hardened against the silk. My thighs clenched. He knew. He saw the dilation of my pupils. Dinner, Elena. He released me. The loss of contact left me cold. He walked out. I stood there for a heartbeat. My hand went to my neck where his fingers had been. My skin burned. I hated him. I hated him so much. I grabbed my new tablet. I pulled up the smart home interface, 68 degrees. I deleted the preset. I overrode the admin lock. I cranked the thermostat to 80. Let him sweat.
Chapter 3, Luca, 80 degrees. The air in my office felt heavy, thick. It clung to my skin beneath the starch of my dress shirt like a wet wool blanket. The thermostat on the wall read a defiant 80 degrees. She was petty. I respected that. Most people cowered when I threatened them. They pissed themselves or begged for mercy. Elena Rossi changed the temperature of my house to tropical just to prove she could override my admin codes. It was childish. It was irritating. It was the most interesting thing anyone had done in this fortress in years. Dante stood by the bank of monitors in the security center. He had unbuttoned his suit jacket. A bead of sweat tracked a slow path down his temple. Fix it, I said. I cannot. Dante tapped the console. She locked the environmental controls behind a localized encryption key. I tried to reset the system. It started playing circus music through the intercom speakers. I stared at the screen. Circus music. Marco Rossi was a cockroach who scurried in the dark. His daughter was something else entirely. A hornet. Where is she? Camera 4. The East Lounge. I looked at the feed. The high-definition camera captured the room in stark clarity. Elena sat cross-legged on the floor. The black silk dress I forced her into had ridden up high on her thighs. It exposed pale skin that glowed against the dark Persian rug. A laptop balanced on her knees. Her fingers moved in a blur. She wasn't alone. Sophia lay on the sofa. My daughter hung upside down with her head near the floor and her feet kicking the air. She was laughing. The sound did not come through the monitors, but the visual was enough to arrest my breath. Sophia never laughed. Not in this house. Not with me. She skulked. She slammed doors. She looked at me with the same cold resentment her mother used to wield like a knife. But here she was, smiling. What is she doing? I asked. Dante leaned closer to the screen, the monitor reflected in his dark eyes. It looks like she is teaching her how to code, or she is social engineering my daughter to get access to the main vault. Paranoia was not a flaw in my line of work. It was a survival mechanism. Elena Rossi was a debt slave. She had every reason to burn this house to the ground. Using Sophia to do it would be the smartest play on the board. A red alert flashed on the main dashboard. A silent alarm. Unauthorized outbound traffic. Port 8080. My spine stiffened. She is moving data. Dante's hand went to his earpiece. Intercept it. I am trying. The firewall is struggling to categorize the packet size. It is massive. I didn't wait for him to finish. I turned and stalked out of the security room. The heat in the hallway hit me harder. It fueled the anger simmering in my gut. She had been here less than 24 hours, and she was already testing the perimeter. She thought, because I didn't break her fingers yesterday, that I was soft. She was about to learn the difference between mercy and patience. I reached the East Lounge. I didn't bother with the handle. I kicked the double doors open. They slammed against the interior walls with a violence that shook the frames. Sophia scrambled up from the couch. Her phone clattered to the floor. Elena didn't flinch. She didn't even look up. Her fingers hit one final key with a decisive snap. Then she slowly closed the laptop lid. Get out, Sophia. My voice was low. Dangerous. Dad. We were just out. Now. Sophia grabbed her phone. She shot a terrified look at Elena. Elena gave her a nearly imperceptible nod. A reassurance. Sophia ran past me. She smelled like strawberry vape smoke and guilt. The door clicked shut. Silence descended on the room. The air conditioner was silent. The only sound was the crackle of the unlit fireplace and the blood rushing in my ears. Elena finally looked at me. Her green eyes were cool behind those thick frames. She pushed her glasses up her nose. You have a vein in your forehead that throbs when you are angry, she noted. You should watch your blood pressure. And you should watch your hands, because if you ever use them to steal from me again, I will crush them. I walked toward her. I ate the space between us in 3 long strides. She scrambled to stand up. She wasn't fast enough. I grabbed her upper arm. I hauled her up from the floor and backed her against the nearest bookshelf. The leather spines of antique books dug into her shoulders. I caged her in. My hands planted on the shelves on either side of her head. What did you send? Nothing. Don't lie to me, Elena. The packet sniffer flagged a massive upload. You are sending files out. Who is on the receiving end? The Russians? The feds? She laughed. It was a dry, brittle sound. Netflix, Luca. I froze. What? Netflix. Disney Plus. Hulu. I stared at her. Her face was inches from mine. I could see the golden flecks in her irises. I could smell the soap she used, something clean and floral that fought against the oppressive heat of the room. You triggered a level 4 security alert to stream movies. Sophia was bored. You have the entire network locked down tighter than a submarine. She couldn't even load a YouTube video. I tunneled a connection through the encrypted server so she could watch a movie. I pulled back slightly. The adrenaline in my veins began to curdle into confusion. You hacked my mainframe, risked my wrath, to give my daughter cartoons. She is 19. She watches true crime documentaries. But yes, why? Because she is lonely, Luca. The words struck me like a physical blow. I blinked. She is not lonely. She has everything. She lives in a palace. She has an unlimited allowance. She lives in a cage, Elena corrected. Her voice lost its sarcastic edge. It became quiet, serious. Look around. You have built a fortress of marble and steel. The windows are bulletproof. The doors are biometric. The guards follow her to the bathroom. She has no friends. She has no life. She has a father who looks at her like she is a security risk instead of a person. I snarled. I keep her safe. You don't know the wolves that wait outside that door. I know exactly what is out there. Why do you think I am here? She pushed against my chest. Her hands were small against the wall of my shirt. They were hot. I stepped back. The proximity was doing things to my head. The heat in the room was suffocating. Or maybe it was her. You undermined my authority, I said. My voice lacked its usual bite. I gave her an hour of normalcy. You compromised the firewall. If you can tunnel out for Netflix, someone can tunnel in. I patched the hole behind me. It is stronger now than it was before. Your previous guy left port 8080 wide open. I closed it. Technically, I did you a favor. She crossed her arms over her chest. The silk of the dress pulled tight across her breasts. My gaze dropped. I couldn't help it. The dress was designed to distract. It was working. She noticed. A flush crept up her neck. It stained her pale skin a lovely shade of pink. Are you going to punish me? She asked. Her voice wavered just a little. The question hung in the hot air. Heavy, loaded, punishment. There were a dozen ways I could punish her. I could lock her in her room. I could add interest to her father's debt. But standing here in the stifling heat, breathing in her scent, I didn't want to punish her. I wanted to devour her. I reached out. My hand hovered near her face. I traced the line of her jaw with my thumb. Her skin was soft, softer than anything in this hard, cold world. She stopped breathing. Her eyes widened. The defiance melted away, leaving something raw and terrified in its place. She didn't pull away. My thumb brushed her lower lip. It trembled. You are dangerous, Elena, I murmured. Not because of what you can do with a computer, but because of what you make me forget. What do you forget? She whispered. That you are the enemy. I dropped my hand. The loss of contact felt like an amputation. Fix the thermostat, I said. My voice was rough. Gravel and smoke. I like it warm. 72 degrees. That is the compromise. If I sweat through another shirt, I am charging it to your account. She blinked. A small, surprised smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. 74, 72. Or I throw the laptop in the pool. Fine. 72. I turned to leave. I needed air. I needed a drink. I needed to get away from the green eyes that saw too much. Luca. I stopped at the door. I didn't turn around. Sophia isn't a vulnerability, she said to my back. She is the only thing in this tower that makes it a home. Don't lock her out too. I walked out. I didn't slam the door this time. I went straight to the bar in my office. The crystal decanter clinked against the glass as I poured a double shot of bourbon. I downed it in one swallow. The burn in my throat did nothing to settle the fire in my blood. Dante walked in. He looked rumpled. The heat was getting to him too. "Is the threat neutralized?" he asked. I looked at the empty glass. "Number one?" I said. "It is just beginning." She was right. About Sophia, about the cage, and that terrified me more than any assassin's bullet ever could. Because if Elena Rossi could see the cracks in my armor after one day, imagine what she would do when she found the way in. Monitor her, I ordered. The data. No. The girl. Watch how she treats Sophia. Watch what she does when she thinks no one is looking. Dante frowned. "You think she is grooming her? I think she is humanizing her. And in this life, Dante, humanity gets you killed." I poured another drink. 72 degrees. The air vents above me hissed. Cool air began to circulate. The oppressive weight lifted from the room. But the heat under my skin remained. She obeyed the order. She lowered the temperature. But she had already set the fire. And I had a terrible feeling I was going to let it burn.
Chapter 4. Elena. The processor I needed was not something you ordered on Amazon. It was a military-grade biometric decryption chip, and it sat inside a vault across town waiting for my retinal scan. I stood in front of Luca's desk. I smoothed the skirt of the ridiculous cream-colored pencil skirt he had forced me into. It was tight enough to cut off circulation to my knees. The matching silk blouse felt like a straitjacket. "I need to go to the supplier, Luca. I cannot code the perimeter algorithm without the hardware." Luca did not look up from his paperwork. He signed a document with a heavy fountain pen. The scratch of the nib against the paper was the only sound in the office. "Send Dante. Dante does not have my eyeballs. Unless you plan to scoop them out with a spoon and hand them to him, I have to go in person." Luca stopped writing. He slowly capped the pen. He looked up. His green eyes tracked over my outfit. He lingered on the high neckline of the blouse, then dropped to the hem of the skirt. "You are not leaving this building, Elena. The city is not safe for you. I am not safe in here either." I gestured to the room. "I am living with a man who burns my hoodies for sport." He leaned back in his leather chair. The leather creaked. "Miller is out there." The name landed between us like a dead bird. Detective Miller. The man on the cartel payroll. The man who hunted my father. He is looking for Marco, not me. He is looking for leverage. You are the leverage. I need the chip, Luca. Without it, the firewall you made me build has a back door the size of a truck. Do you want to be secure or do you want to be stubborn? He stared at me for a long beat. The air conditioner hummed. The scent of sandalwood and expensive ink filled my nose. "Fine," I exhaled. "But you take the armored detail. Dante drives. 2 cars, front and rear guard, and you do not speak to anyone. You scan your eye, you take the box, you leave. Deal." I turned to leave. "Elena." I paused. "If you run, if you even think about running, I know. You will find me." He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The threat hung in the air, heavy and absolute. The heat of the Las Vegas afternoon hit me the moment the lobby doors opened. It was a physical weight. Dry. Oppressive. It baked the asphalt and made the air shimmer above the cars. Dante ushered me into the back of a black SUV. The door slammed shut, sealing me in cool, filtered air. The windows were tinted dark enough to turn the world into a gloomy shadow. We moved in a convoy. A car in front. A car behind. I felt like a prisoner being transferred to Supermax. Dante watched me from the rearview mirror. His eyes were hidden behind sunglasses, but I felt his gaze. "You are nervous," he stated. "I am claustrophobic. I hate these cars. It is safer than the alternative." We drove in silence. The city rolled by. Casinos, tourists, desperation painted in neon. We pulled into an industrial district where the buildings turned to gray concrete and the tourists vanished. The supplier was located in a nondescript warehouse with reinforced steel doors. "Stay close," Dante said as the car stopped. We exited. The heat wrapped around me again. My heels clicked on the cracked pavement. 2 guards flanked me. Dante took point. We entered the building. It smelled of ozone and salt air. A man behind bulletproof glass buzzed us in. I walked to the counter. The clerk didn't ask for ID. He pushed a scanner forward. Chin on the rest. Look at the light. I leaned in. A red laser swept across my vision. The machine beeped. A heavy metal drawer slid open, revealing a small matte black box. I grabbed it. "Transaction complete," the clerk said. That was it. 2 minutes. I turned to leave. Dante was already moving toward the exit, his hand hovering near his jacket. We stepped back out into the blinding sun. The SUV sat idling at the curb. Dante reached for the door handle. "Police!" The shout came from the alleyway to our left. Dante froze. The 2 guards behind me shifted their hands, going to their weapons. A man stepped out from the shadows. He wore a cheap suit that was 2 sizes too big and stained with sweat. A gold badge hung from a chain around his thick neck. He held a service pistol, but it was pointed at the ground. Detective Miller. He smiled. His teeth were yellow. "Step away from the car." Dante stepped in front of me. "Is there a problem, detective?" "Yeah, there is a problem. We got an anonymous tip. Narcotics transport. I need to search the vehicle and the girl. This is a private vehicle belonging to Mr. Vitti. You have no warrant. I have probable cause." Miller stepped closer. He smelled of stale coffee and rot. "Move aside or I arrest you for obstruction." Dante didn't move. He was a wall of muscle and discipline. But Miller was a cop. Shooting a cop in broad daylight brought down heat that not even Luca could pay off. Miller knew it. He smirked. He sidestepped Dante with surprising speed. His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. His grip was wet and bruising. "Come here, sweetheart. Let's see what you are hiding under that fancy skirt." I yanked my arm back. "Let go of me. Resisting arrest." Miller laughed. "That is a charge." He pulled me hard. I stumbled in my heels. I crashed into his chest. The smell of him made bile rise in my throat. His free hand slid down my back, groping for the waistband of my skirt. "I have a baggie of heroin right here in my pocket," Miller whispered in my ear. His breath was hot and wet. "I bet I find it on you. Then you belong to me, and once you are in holding, Luca can't help you." Dante moved. He grabbed Miller's shoulder. Miller spun around and jammed the barrel of his gun into Dante's gut. "Back off. I will drop you right here. Self-defense." The standoff paralyzed the street. The guards had their guns drawn, but they couldn't fire. Miller had a badge and a hostage. I tried to twist away. Miller tightened his grip on my arm until I felt the bones grind together. "You tell Luca he pays double," Miller shouted, "or the girl disappears into the system." The roar of an engine shattered the tension. A massive black truck tore around the corner. It didn't slow down. It mounted the curb tires, screeching against the concrete. It barreled straight for us. Miller flinched. He dragged me backward. The truck slammed on the brakes inches from Miller's legs. The grille was a wall of black steel. The door flew open before the vehicle stopped rocking. Luca Vitti stepped out. He didn't look like a businessman. He looked like war. He wore a dark suit, but the jacket was gone. His sleeves were rolled up. A silver gun glinted in his hand. He didn't speak. He didn't pause. He walked straight at Miller. Miller raised his gun. "Stay back, Vitti. I am a police officer." Luca didn't even blink. He swatted the gun barrel aside with his left hand like it was a toy. His right hand moved in a blur. The heavy pistol whipped across Miller's face. The sound was sickening. Bone cracking against steel. Miller screamed. He dropped me. He stumbled back, blood gushing from his nose. He fell to the pavement, clutching his face. Luca didn't stop. He stepped over the groaning man. He holstered his gun and grabbed Miller by the lapels of his cheap suit. He hauled him off the ground and slammed him against the brick wall of the warehouse. Luca leaned in. His face was inches from the bloodied detective. "You touched her." Luca's voice was a low, terrifying rumble. It vibrated through the alley. Miller spat blood. "She is a suspect. She is mine." Luca slammed him against the wall again. Miller's head bounced off the brick. "If you ever lay a hand on her again, if you even look at her, I will not kill you, Miller. I will take your hands. I will cut them off at the wrists and mail them to your mother. Do you understand me?" Miller nodded frantically. His eyes were wide with terror. Luca dropped him. Miller slid down the wall, leaving a smear of red on the bricks. Luca turned to me. The rage on his face vanished the moment his eyes met mine. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. He grabbed my shoulders. His grip was firm but not painful. He scanned my face, searching for damage. "Did he hurt you?" I shook my head. My voice stuck in my throat. I was shaking. The adrenaline crash hit me all at once. Luca saw it. He cursed softly in Italian. He pulled me into his chest. His arms wrapped around me. He was solid, warm. He smelled of sandalwood and gunpowder. He shielded me from the alley, from the bleeding cop, from the guards watching us. His hand came up to the back of my head, pressing my face into his shirt. "Don't look," he murmured against my hair. "Don't look at him." I clung to him. I grabbed the fabric of his shirt and held on. For a moment I forgot he was my captor. I forgot about the debt. I only knew that the monsters were real and he was the biggest one on the block, and he was standing between them and me. "Get in the truck," Luca ordered over my head. Dante opened the passenger door. Luca guided me toward it. He kept his body positioned between me and Miller. A human shield. He lifted me into the high seat. My skirt rode up. He didn't look. He buckled my seatbelt, his knuckles brushing my collarbone. He slammed the door shut. He walked around to the driver's side. He stopped one last time to look at Miller, who was crawling toward his car. Luca pointed a finger at him. A final silent warning. Then he got in. The locks engaged with a heavy thud. Luca gripped the steering wheel. His knuckles were white. A smear of Miller's blood stained his right hand. He peeled away from the curb. The tires smoked. We didn't speak for 3 blocks. The silence in the cab was thick with unprocessed violence. I looked at his hand. The red stain against his tan skin. "You hit a cop," I whispered. "He is not a cop. He is a criminal with a badge. He will come after you. Let him come." He reached over with his clean hand. He found my knee. His palm was hot through the thin silk of my skirt. He squeezed gently. A grounding touch. "You are Vitti now, Elena." He glanced at me. His eyes burned with a dark, possessive fire that made my breath hitch. No one touches you. Not the police. Not your father. No one. Except me. He didn't say the last two words. He didn't have to. They hung in the air, charged and heavy. I looked down at his hand on my knee. I should have pushed it away. I should have told him not to touch me. Instead, I covered his hand with mine, and I let him drive me back to the cage.
Chapter 5. Luca. Violence always left a metallic taste in my mouth. It lingered on my tongue like an old penny, sharp and unmistakable. The drive back from the warehouse district had been silent, but the air inside the armored truck vibrated with unspoken threats. Elena sat in the passenger seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She stared out the window at the blurred lights of the strip. But I knew she wasn't seeing the tourists or the casinos. She was seeing the blood on the pavement. She was seeing the way Miller's nose collapsed under the weight of my pistol. She didn't flinch away from me. She leaned into the leather seat, absorbing the safety I offered, even if it came wrapped in brutality. We pulled into the underground garage of the fortress. The heavy steel gate rattled shut behind us, sealing out the world. "Upstairs," I said. She nodded. She didn't argue. The fight had drained out of her, replaced by a weary acceptance that unsettled me more than her defiance ever did. We rode the elevator in silence. When the doors opened to the penthouse, the cool air hit my face, a stark contrast to the stifling heat of the alley. "Go to your room. Get ready." She stopped. She turned to face me, her green eyes wide and confused behind those thick frames. Ready for what? The gala. She blinked. The gala. "You want to go to a party? Now!" I unbuttoned my cuffs, rolling the sleeves up another inch to expose the splatter of blood on my forearm. "Not a party, Elena. A statement. I don't understand. Miller touched you. He did it publicly. He did it to show that the Vitti name is losing its teeth. If I hide you away, if I let you disappear into this tower, I confirm his theory. So you want to parade me around, like a trophy, like a warning." I stepped closer. The scent of her fear and her cheap floral soap hit me, a potent mix that made my blood run hot. "You are going to walk into that ballroom on my arm. You are going to look every person in the eye, and you are going to show them that you are untouchable, because you belong to me." She swallowed hard. "I don't have anything to wear? You burned my clothes, remember? There is a dress on your bed. Put it on." She stared at me for a long beat, searching my face for a crack in the armor. She wouldn't find one. Not tonight. Tonight, I was pure instinct and aggression. She turned and walked down the hall. Her spine was straight. Her head was high. Good girl. I went to my own suite. I stripped off the ruined shirt, tossing it into the hamper. I scrubbed Miller's blood from my skin until my knuckles were raw. The water ran pink down the drain, carrying away the evidence of my loss of control. I dressed with mechanical precision. Black tuxedo, crisp white shirt, silk tie. The uniform of civilized violence. I checked my reflection. The predator stared back, cold and composed. When I walked into the living room, Elena was waiting. The air left my lungs. The dress was emerald green silk, the exact shade of her eyes. It clung to every curve, sliding over her hips like liquid money. A slit ran up her thigh, high enough to be dangerous, low enough to be elegant. Her back was bare, an expanse of pale skin that begged to be touched. She had pulled her hair up, exposing the delicate line of her neck. She wasn't wearing her glasses. "You look expensive," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. She touched her earlobe, where a diamond drop earring glittered. "I feel like an imposter." "You are the most valuable thing in the room." I offered her my arm. She hesitated, then laid her hand on my forearm. Her fingers were cool. "Let's go." The charity gala was held in the ballroom of the Bellagio. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto a sea of black ties and designer gowns. The air smelled of expensive perfume and desperation. Silence rippled through the room the moment we entered. Conversations died. Heads turned. I felt Elena stiffen beside me. I covered her hand with mine, pressing it against my side. "Chin up," I murmured. "Let them look." We moved through the crowd. I nodded to associates, ignored rivals. I felt the weight of their stares. They were assessing her, assessing me, wondering who the girl in the green dress was, and why Luca Vitti hadn't killed the cop who grabbed her. Luca. The voice was like nails on a chalkboard. I turned. Bianca stood there, my ex-wife, Sophia's mother. She wore red, a color that clashed violently with her spray tan. A martini glass dangled from her fingers. She looked at me, her lip curling in a sneer. Then she looked at Elena. Her eyes widened. A cruel, delighted smile spread across her face. "Well, isn't this quaint? You brought the help." Elena flinched. I tightened my grip on her hand. "Hello, Bianca." She ignored me. She stepped closer to Elena, invading her space. "I heard you picked up Marco Rossi's trash. I didn't realize you were sleeping with it too." The room went deadly quiet. People nearby stopped pretending to talk. They watched, hungry for the drama. Elena's face went pale. She tried to pull her hand away, to retreat. I didn't let her. Bianca laughed. It was a brittle, ugly sound. "How much is he paying you, honey? Or are you working off Daddy's debt on your back?" "That is enough," I said. My voice was low, but it carried. "Oh, please, Luca. Don't pretend she is anything more than a whore paying off a debt. We all know Marco. We all know what his daughter is worth." She took a sip of her drink, her eyes gleaming with malice. I let go of Elena's hand. I stepped forward. I loomed over Bianca. I used every inch of my height, every ounce of my menace. Bianca faltered. She took a step back, her confidence cracking. "You are mistaken," I said. My voice was ice. "She is just a hacker, Luca, a criminal. She is the Vitti cybersecurity architect." A gasp went through the crowd. "She holds the keys to the kingdom, Bianca. She secures the assets that pay your alimony. She protects the future of this family." I leaned down. I spoke loud enough for the entire circle to hear. "And she has more value in her little finger than you have in your entire bitter, wasted life." Bianca's mouth opened. No sound came out. Her face turned a mottled red. I turned back to Elena. She was staring at me. Her eyes were wide, shining with unshed tears. I held out my hand. "Dance with me." It wasn't a question. She took my hand. I led her to the dance floor. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. The orchestra began a waltz. I pulled her into my arms. My hand settled on the bare skin of her back. She was trembling. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. Yes, I did. She looked up at me. Why? Because you are mine. And no one insults what is mine. The music swelled. We moved together. She was light on her feet, following my lead with an intuitive grace that surprised me. The adrenaline from the confrontation was still pumping through my veins. It mixed with the scent of her skin, the feel of her body pressed against mine. The protective instinct that had driven me all day began to shift. It darkened. It twisted into something heavier, something hungrier. I pulled her closer. My thigh brushed between hers. She gasped softly. "You are dangerous, Luca," she murmured. "You have no idea." I leaned down. My lips brushed her ear. "I want to take you out of here," I whispered. The words were a filthy promise. "I want to take you back to the penthouse. I want to rip this dress off you." Her breath hitched. Her fingers tightened on my shoulder. "I want to bend you over my desk and make you forget your name. I want to make you scream until the only thing you know is me. Luca." It was a plea. A warning. I moved my hand down her back. I rested it on the curve of her hip, my thumb pressing into the soft flesh. "Tell me to stop," I challenged. "Tell me you don't want it." She didn't speak. She looked up at me, her pupils blown wide, her lips parted. The heat between us was a physical force. It burned through the polite facade of the ballroom. I grinded against her. Just once. Subtle enough that only she felt it. Hard enough to make my point. She shuddered. A flush spread across her chest. "Take me home," she whispered. I stopped dancing. I took her hand. We walked out of the ballroom. I didn't look back at Bianca. I didn't look at the stunned crowd. I only looked at the exit, and the woman who was about to learn exactly what it meant to belong to a monster.
Chapter 6. Elena. The gala had been a blur of diamonds and threats, but the car ride back to the fortress was silent. Luca's hand rested on my thigh the entire drive. His touch was heavy, possessive. It burned through the silk of my dress and branded the skin beneath. When we arrived, he went straight to his office. He poured a drink without looking at me. The adrenaline that had fueled him on the dance floor had cooled into a dark, brooding energy. He dismissed me with a wave of his hand. "Go to bed, Elena." I didn't argue. I walked down the long, silent corridor to the guest wing. My heels clicked against the marble, echoing in the empty space. I couldn't sleep. The image of Luca defending me played on a loop in my mind. The way he looked at Bianca. The way he looked at me. "You are mine." The words had been a cage, but tonight they felt dangerously like a shield. I needed water. I needed to wash the taste of expensive champagne and fear out of my mouth. I slipped out of my room. The penthouse was quiet. The lights were dimmed to a soft amber glow. I walked toward the kitchen, my bare feet silent on the floor. A noise stopped me. It was a soft sound. A gasp. A whisper of fabric. It came from the terrace. The glass doors were cracked open, letting in the dry desert breeze. I moved closer, drawn by curiosity and a sense of unease. I peered through the gap in the curtains. Shadows moved in the corner of the balcony, hidden from the main security cameras by a large potted palm. 2 figures. One was small, delicate, dark hair spilling over her shoulders. Sophia. The other was broad, tall, a suit jacket discarded on the railing. Dante. My breath hitched. They were pressed together against the stone railing. Dante's hands were tangled in Sophia's hair, holding her face like she was fragile. like she was precious. Sophia's arms were wrapped around his neck, pulling him down to her. They were kissing. It wasn't a casual kiss. It was desperate. Starved. It was the kind of kiss that shattered worlds if it was discovered. I stepped back, my heart hammering against my ribs. If Luca saw this, he would kill Dante. He would lock Sophia away in a tower and throw away the key. Dante was the help, the hired gun. He was twice her age, and he was sworn to protect her, not touch her. I turned to leave, intending to pretend I had seen nothing. Then I saw it. On the patio table next to Dante's holster sat a small black device. It wasn't a standard-issue Vitti radio. It was sleek. Matte black. A satellite uplink. The screen lit up with a notification. Status report agent. Handler agent. The word crashed into my understanding with the force of a wrecking ball. Dante wasn't just a bodyguard sleeping with the boss's daughter. He was the FBI. He was the mole. I must have made a sound. A gasp. A shift of weight. Dante's head snapped up. His eyes locked onto the gap in the curtains. Elena. He didn't whisper. He didn't panic. He moved. He pushed Sophia behind him. In one fluid motion, he drew his gun from the holster. He leveled it at me through the glass. I froze. The barrel of the gun looked like a cannon. "Stay back, Sophia," Dante ordered. He kicked the door open. He stepped into the living room, the gun never wavering from my chest. "What did you see?" I raised my hands slowly. "I saw enough." "You saw nothing." "I saw you kissing her. And I saw the text. Agent." His jaw tightened. His finger rested on the trigger. He wasn't the stoic guard anymore. He was cornered, dangerous. Sophia ran in behind him. She grabbed his arm. "Dante, no! Put it down! It is Elena! Stay back, Sophia! She is a liability! She is my friend!" Dante didn't look at her. His focus was entirely on me. He was calculating, weighing the risk. If I spoke, if I told Luca everything he had built would crumble, his life, his mission, and Sophia. "You are going to kill me," I stated. My voice was surprisingly steady. "If I have to. If you shoot me, Luca loses his money. The quarantine code expires in 6 hours. If I am dead, the virus wipes the accounts. $500 million gone." Dante hesitated. He knew the stakes. "You think Luca cares about the money more than a rat in his house?" "I think he cares about loyalty, which you don't have. I am doing my job. Your job is to destroy this family. My job is to put criminals in jail." "And what about her?" I nodded at Sophia, who was clinging to his arm, tears streaming down her face. "Is she part of the job? Is she collateral damage?" Dante flinched. The gun lowered an inch. "I love her." The words were torn out of him. Raw. Painful. "You have a funny way of showing it. You are going to arrest her father. You are going to tear her life apart. I am trying to save her by lying to her." Sophia stepped between us. She put her body in front of the gun. "Stop it, both of you." Dante lowered the weapon completely. He looked defeated. He looked at Sophia with an expression of such profound agony that it hurt to witness. "Elena, please?" Sophia turned to me. "Don't tell Dad. He will kill him. He is a Fed, Sophia. He is here to bury us. He isn't like that. He protects us. He is protecting a case file." "That isn't true," Dante said. His voice was quiet. "It started as a case. It changed. When I met her." He looked at Sophia. His eyes softened. The hard mask of the agent fell away, leaving just a man who was hopelessly in love with the wrong woman. "I can't finish the mission, Elena. I can't send Luca away because it would destroy her. I have been stalling my handlers for months, feeding them garbage intel. And the text, they are getting impatient. They want me to plant a bug in the office. Did you? Number." I studied him. I looked for the lie, I saw fear, I saw desperation. But I didn't see deception. Not about her. If I tell Luca you are dead before sunrise, I said. I know. And Sophia never forgives him. Dante looked at the floor. I took a deep breath. I was playing a dangerous game. I was conspiring against the man who held my life in his hands. But looking at Sophia, seeing the terror in her eyes, I knew I couldn't be the one to swing the axe, and I won't tell him. Sophia let out a sob of relief. But I raised a finger. We have a deal. Anything, Dante said. You protect her. No matter what happens, no matter what your handlers say, no matter what Luca does, you keep her safe. I swear it on my life. And you keep me alive, because if I die, this whole house of cards falls down. Understood? He holstered his gun. He grabbed the satellite device from the table and shoved it deep into his pocket. Go to bed, Elena, he said. I turned to leave. Elena, Sophia whispered. I looked back. She was holding Dante's hand, gripping it like a lifeline. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said. This secret is heavy. And secrets in this house have a way of exploding. I walked back to my room. My legs were shaking. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. I was trapped. I was protecting a traitor. I was working for a monster, and I was falling for the man who held the leash. I touched my lips, remembering the heat of the dance floor, the promise of violence and pleasure in Luca's whisper. You are mine. But he didn't own me. Not completely. Not yet. I had a secret. And in a world of information, secrets were the only currency that mattered. I just hoped this one didn't bankrupt us all.
Chapter 7. Luca. The silence in my office was usually something I craved. It was order. It was control. But tonight it felt like the quiet before a demolition charge detonated. My phone vibrated on the desk. A single notification from Dante. Breach. The word was simple. The implications were catastrophic. I opened the file. The security footage was grainy. It showed the loading bay gate. The timestamp read 3:14 a.m. A figure walked toward the keypad. They wore a dark hoodie pulled low. The height was right. The build was right. A hand extended. A key card swiped. The gate hissed open. Then came the audio. Clear the perimeter. I am authorizing a 15-minute window. Get the team in. The voice was unmistakable. The cadence. The pitch. Elena. My blood ran cold. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I sat very still. Betrayal was a familiar ghost. It had haunted this building for years since Bianca sold me out to the rival families. I thought I had exorcised it. I thought I had sealed the cracks. But I had let a new crack in. I had dressed it in silk and danced with it at a gala. I replayed the audio. Get the team in. She wasn't just stealing data. She was letting an assault team into the fortress. She was opening the gates for an invasion. The hope I had allowed myself to feel. The stupid, reckless hope that blossomed when she touched my face, when she laughed with Sophia, withered and died in my chest. It left behind a hollow space that filled instantly with rage. She played me. She lowered the temperature in my house. She hacked the fridge. She acted the part of the defiant captive perfectly. And while I was distracted by her fire, she was burning down the walls. I pressed the intercom button. Bring her to me. I didn't wait for a response. I stood up and walked to the window. The city lights of Las Vegas sprawled out below me, a glittering web of lies and vice. I owned this city. I ruled it with an iron fist. And a girl with a keyboard, had just made me look like a fool. The door opened. Elena walked in. She looked sleepy. Her hair was messy. She wore one of my shirts. It hung off her frame, ending mid-thigh. I had given it to her. I had told her to wear it because I liked the idea of her wrapped in my scent. Now it looked like a mockery. Luca. She rubbed her eyes. What is it? It is 4 a.m. I didn't turn around. The reflection in the window showed her standing in the center of the room. She looked small, vulnerable, innocent. That was the worst part. The lie was perfect. Did you enjoy it? I asked. Enjoy what? The game, the back and forth, the tension. Did you laugh about it when you were alone? Did you think he is so easy? She stepped closer. Luca, you are scaring me. What happened? I turned. The movement was sharp, violent. She stopped. Her bare feet froze on the carpet. I walked to the desk. I tapped the tablet. The audio played. Clear the perimeter. Her voice filled the room. Calm. Authoritative. Traitorous. She paled. The blood drained from her face, leaving her ghostly white. That isn't me. I swiped to the video. The figure at the gate. The key card. And that. Is that not your key card? She looked at the screen. She looked at me. Her hands started to shake. Luca, please. You know technology. You know this can be faked. That is a deep fake. The audio is synthesized. And the key card. I don't know. Someone must have cloned it. Who? Who has access to your card, Elena? You sleep in this penthouse. You never leave without Dante. I don't know. I slammed my hand onto the desk. The sound was like a gunshot. Stop lying. She flinched. Tears pooled in her eyes. Real tears. Or maybe just another layer of the performance. I trusted you. The words scraped my throat. I let you near my daughter. I let you near me. I didn't do this. I swear, you swore you would pay the debt. You swore you hated your father. I do? Then why are you opening the door for his associates? I stepped around the desk. I stalked toward her. She backed away until she hit the wall. This was Marco's plan, wasn't it? Send the daughter. Let her seduce the Don. Let her lower his guard. Number. Was it hard, Elena? Was it hard to pretend you wanted me? Or was that part real? Was the lust just a bonus payment? She shook her head frantically. No, Luca, it wasn't a lie. None of it was a lie. I stopped inches from her. I could smell the sleep on her skin. I could see the pulse hammering in her neck. I wanted to wrap my hands around that neck. I wanted to squeeze until the truth came out. But more than that, I wanted to kiss her. Even now. Even knowing what she was. The desire was a sickness in my blood. And that made me hate her more. She had compromised me. She had made me weak. Get out. She blinked. What? Get out of my sight. Get out of my house. Luca, listen to me. I am done listening. I grabbed her arm. I dragged her toward the door. She stumbled. She tried to dig her heels in, but she was nothing against my strength. Dante! The doors opened. Dante stood there. His face was pale. He looked from me to Elena. "Take her." "Luca, wait." Dante started. "We should verify." "I said take her!" I shoved Elena toward him. She collided with his chest. "She is a traitor, Dante." She opened the gates. "If you don't remove her right now, I will kill her myself." Dante caught her. He looked at the tears streaming down her face. He looked at the rage vibrating off me. "Where do you want her?" "Pine Barrens." The room went silent. The Pine Barrens, the execution ground, the place where people went to disappear. Elena gasped, a strangled sobbing sound that tore at my chest. "Luca, number, please." I turned my back on her. I couldn't look at her. If I looked at her, I would falter. I would find an excuse to keep her. "Handle it, Dante." "Luca." Dante grabbed her arm. "Come on." He dragged her out. Her screams echoed down the hallway. "I didn't do it. Luca, please." Then the elevator doors closed. Silence returned. I stood in the center of the office. The silence wasn't order anymore. It wasn't control. It was a tomb. I walked to the bar. I grabbed the bottle of whiskey. I didn't bother with a glass. I drank straight from the bottle. The burn was good. It distracted from the cold ache in my chest. I walked back to the window. I looked down at the street. A black SUV pulled out of the garage. It turned onto the highway heading north, toward the desert, toward the dark. I watched until taillights disappeared. She was gone. The threat was neutralized. The breach was closed. I should have felt relief. I should have felt like the Don who had protected his empire. Instead, I felt like a man who had just cut out his own heart. I hurled the bottle at the wall. It shattered. Amber liquid rained down the expensive wallpaper like tears. Marco Rossi. He was still out there. He had orchestrated this. He had turned his daughter into a weapon. I picked up the phone. Find him. I ordered my capo. Find Marco Rossi and bring him to me alive. He had taken her from me. He had corrupted her. He was going to pay for every second of this pain. But deep down in the dark pit of my stomach, a voice whispered a terrifying question. What if she was telling the truth? I shut the voice down. I crushed it. She was a Rossi. Betrayal was in her blood. I sat down in my chair. I stared at the blank screen where the video had played. The fortress was secure. The money was safe. But the house felt empty. And for the first time in years, I felt completely alone.
Chapter 8. Elena. The silence in the car wasn't empty. It was heavy, pressurized, like the air before a tornado touches down. We had been driving for an hour, leaving the neon bleed of Las Vegas far behind. The road was a ribbon of black asphalt cutting through nothingness. No streetlights, no moon. Just the headlights slicing through the scrub brush and the endless, suffocating dark. Dante stared straight ahead. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. He looked like a man driving to his own funeral. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. The tears had dried up miles ago, leaving a scorched, hollow feeling in my chest. Luca had looked at me with eyes devoid of humanity and ordered my death. Handle it. The words rattled in my skull, louder than the hum of the engine. The car slowed. The tires crunched from pavement to gravel. Dante killed the headlights. We rolled to a stop in a cloud of dust. The darkness rushed back in, absolute and terrifying. Get out! His voice was flat, mechanical. I opened the door, The desert air was freezing. It bit through the thin silk of the shirt, Luca's shirt, chilling the sweat on my skin. I stepped out, the sharp rocks digging into my bare feet. Dante walked around the hood. He stopped 10 feet away. His hand hovered over his holster. This was it. The Pine Barrens. The place where Vitti enemies became missing persons reports. "Turn around," he said. "Number." My voice was a whisper, but it didn't shake. "Elena, don't make this harder." "No. If you are going to kill me, you look at me. You look me in the eye so you see my face every time you close your eyes, every time you kiss Sophia." He flinched. The name struck him like a physical blow. His hand dropped from his weapon. He looked at the vast, empty desert, then back at me. The mask of the soldier cracked, revealing the desperate man beneath. "Go." I blinked, the wind stinging my eyes. "What?" "Run, Elena. Get out of here." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He threw it on the ground between us. "Cash. Untraceable. There is a truck stop 5 miles east. Walk until you see the lights. Hitch a ride. Get as far away from Nevada as you can. But Luca ordered you. Luca is blind. He is hurt, and he is lashing out. But I am not an executioner. Not for you. And not for a crime you didn't commit." He took a step back toward the car. "You are a ghost now, Elena. If I see you again, if Luca sees you again, we have to kill you. Do you understand?" I stared at him. The reprieve was dizzying. I wasn't going to die, not tonight. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just run." He got back in the car. The engine roared to life, a beast waking up. He reversed, spinning the car around, and drove away. I watched the taillights fade into red pinpricks, then nothing. I was alone. I grabbed the envelope. I shoved it into the pocket of the oversized shirt, and I started walking. The 5 miles felt like 50. The desert didn't care about my pain. Cactus spines tore at the hem of the shirt. Rocks sliced my feet. The cold seeped into my bones until I couldn't feel my fingers. But I kept moving. Hate is a powerful fuel, and I had a tank full of it. He threw me away. He didn't even ask for proof. The sun was bleeding gray into the sky when I finally saw the flickering neon sign of the truck stop. I bought a bottle of water and a ride from a long-haul trucker heading into the city limits. He didn't ask questions about the bruises or the expensive men's shirt. He just took the cash. He dropped me off 3 blocks from my old life. My apartment building loomed ahead, a crumbling brick relic in the shadow of the glitzy casinos. It smelled of garbage and despair. It was ugly. It was dangerous. It was the only place I had left. I didn't have keys. Luca had burned them. I circled to the alley. The fire escape ladder hung 10 feet above the ground, rusted and precarious. I dragged a plastic dumpster beneath it. The lid buckled under my weight, the smell of rotting food rising up to gag me. I jumped. My fingers caught the bottom rung. Rust flaked off into my eyes. I pulled myself up, my muscles screaming in protest. 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th. My window was dark. I shimmied along the ledge. The glass was old, the frame warped. I used the heel of my hand to jar it upward. It stuck. I gritted my teeth and shoved, ignoring the pain in my bruised ribs. It gave with a screech of protesting metal. I slid inside. The apartment was stiflingly hot. The air was stale, thick with dust. But underneath the dust, there was something else. Smoke. Stale cigarette smoke. I froze. I hadn't smoked in 2 years. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around. A shape detached itself from the shadows near the kitchen. A cherry glowed bright red in the gloom. "Took you long enough, sweetheart." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Dad." Marco Rossi sat in my only chair, legs crossed. He stood up, stepping into a shaft of sunlight cutting through the grime. He looked haggard. His eyes were bloodshot, rimmed with dark circles, but his mouth was twisted into a triumphant grin. I knew you would come back here. Eventually. You've been here. For 2 days. Waiting. I knew Luca's pride. I knew if I pushed the right button, he would toss you out. And you have nowhere else to go. You framed me. Of course I did. You weren't getting the job done. You were getting comfortable, playing house with the enemy. He stepped closer. In his right hand, resting by his side, he held a black plastic device. A taser. I needed you out here, Elena. I needed you desperate. Why? Because you are going to give me the codes, the real ones. I backed away. My heels hit the wall. I don't have them. Don't lie to me. You built the wall. You have the key. Luca will kill you. Luca thinks you're dead in a ditch. He won't be looking for you. He raised the taser. The prongs sparked, a vicious blue arc of electricity that illuminated the madness in his eyes. You are going to tell me everything, and then we are going to be rich. I won't tell you anything. We'll see. He lunged. I tried to dodge, but exhaustion made me slow. He caught my wrist, twisting it behind my back. Pain shot up my shoulder. He slammed me against the wall, the breath leaving my lungs in a rush. The taser pressed against my ribs. Don't fight it, he whispered, his breath smelling of sour coffee. It only hurts for a second. He pulled the trigger. The world went white. Agony exploded through my nervous system, locking my muscles, stealing my voice. I convulsed, slamming against the plaster. My legs gave out. I fell. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was my father's face, smiling down at me like he had finally won.
Chapter 9. Luca. The silence in the penthouse was not heavy. It was hollow. A physical void that echoed with the absence of the woman I had just sent to her death. I sat at my desk. The shattered bottle of whiskey remained on the floor, a jagged testament to my loss of control. The city lights of Las Vegas burned outside the window, indifferent to the fact that I had just signed a death warrant for the only person in years who had made me feel anything other than cold ambition. The elevator doors hissed open. Dante walked in. He looked like a man who had seen hell and decided to stay. His suit was rumpled. His tie was loose. His face was a mask of gray exhaustion that mirrored the sickness in my own gut. He stopped in front of the desk. He didn't speak. He just placed a tablet on the mahogany surface. The screen glowed blue in the dim light. "Is it done?" I asked. The words tasted like ash. "Before you ask that." Dante's voice was rough. Gravel and smoke. "Look at this." I frowned. "What is it?" "Just look." I picked up the tablet. It displayed a waveform analysis, 2 audio tracks stacked on top of each other. The top track was the recording of Elena authorizing the breach. "Clear the perimeter." The bottom track was a chaotic mess of digital noise. "I ran the spectral analysis," Dante said. He pointed to a spike in the frequency. "That isn't a human voice, Luca. It is a synthesis. A deep fake." My hand tightened on the tablet. The plastic creaked. And the video. The key card. "Look at the timestamps." I swiped to the next file. It was a log of the penthouse internal sensors. 3:14 a.m. Motion detected in guest suite. 3:14 a.m. Breach authorized at loading bay. She couldn't be in 2 places at once. The tablet slipped from my fingers. It hit the desk with a dull thud. The realization didn't hit me all at once. It came in waves. First confusion, then denial, then a crushing, suffocating horror. She was in her room. She was asleep. I accused her. I terrified her. I dragged her out of her home and sent her to be executed for a crime she didn't commit. Marco, I whispered. He set her up. Dante confirmed. He cloned her card. He synthesized her voice. He knew you would react. He knew you would throw her out, because he knew I was weak. He knew I was terrified of being betrayed again. I stood up. The chair crashed backward. Where is she, Dante? Dante didn't answer immediately. He looked me in the eye. He took a breath. Is she dead? I couldn't breathe. My lungs seized. If he said yes, if he told me that he had put a bullet in her head on my orders, I would burn this city to the ground and myself with it. I let her run. The air rushed back into my chest. What? I took her to the desert, but I didn't shoot her. I gave her some cash and told her to disappear. I stared at him. A surge of relief so potent it made my knees weak washed over me, followed instantly by a flash of rage. You disobeyed a direct order. Yes. You betrayed me. I saved you from making the biggest mistake of your life. He was right. God help me, he was right. Where did she go? I don't know. She started walking toward the city. The city. Marco Rossi was out there. He had orchestrated this entire frame-up to get her out of my protection, to get her alone. He is waiting for her. The thought was ice water in my veins. Marco didn't want her dead. He wanted the codes. He wanted the money. And he knew Elena wouldn't give them up easily. He would hurt her. He would break her. Get the car. I didn't wait for him. I strode toward the elevator. My stride was long, predatory. The grief was gone. The guilt was gone. Replaced by a singular, terrifying focus. Scorched earth. I tapped my earpiece connecting to the entire network of Vitti soldiers. This is the dawn. All units listen closely. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed on the empty penthouse. Marco Rossi has taken something of mine. I hit the button for the garage. Tear this city apart. Kick down every door. Break every finger. Find him. And when you find him, do not touch him. I checked the load in my gun. He belongs to me. The city of Las Vegas was a grid of lights and noise, but tonight it felt like a hunting ground. My convoy tore through the streets, a line of black armored sharks moving through the neon ocean. I sat in the back of the lead SUV. Dante drove. He drove fast, aggressive. He knew the stakes. Reports flooded in over the comms. Nothing at the casino. Apartment clear, warehouses empty. Panic began to claw at my throat. Every minute that ticked by was a minute Marco had with her. A minute she was bleeding, scared, thinking I wanted her dead. Check the old apartment. I ordered. We cleared it, boss. Empty. Check it again! We pulled up to the crumbling brick building where I had first found Marco. It looked abandoned. Dark. I didn't wait for the car to stop. I jumped out my boots, hitting the pavement running. I kicked the front door in. The wood splintered. I stormed up the stairs, taking them two at a time. 3rd floor, 4th. I reached her door. It was unlocked. I pushed inside, gun raised. Empty. Dust motes danced in the beam of my flashlight. The air was stale hot, but there was something else. A smell. Ozone. Burnt plastic. And fear. I swept the light across the room. There, On the floor near the window, a scuff mark in the dust, a struggle, and a single drop of fresh blood. She was here. I dropped to one knee, touching the red spot. It was still wet. He has her. I stood up. A sound came out of me, a low, animalistic growl. Where would he take her? Where does a rat go when he has the prize? Think, Luca. Think. He needs privacy. He needs tools. He needs to extract information. The shipyard. Marco used to run numbers out of a shipping container in the old industrial district. It was off the grid. Soundproof. Dante. Dante appeared in the doorway. The shipyards. Sector 4. We moved. We drove like madmen. Red lights were suggestions. Traffic laws were for other people. We reached the industrial district in 10 minutes. The rows of rusted shipping containers loomed in the darkness like metal tombstones. Kill the lights, I ordered. The convoy went dark. We rolled in silent. Deadly. There. A faint light leaked from the seam of a container in the far corner. A rusted blue box stacked on top of another. I signaled my men. They fanned out, surrounding the perimeter. I didn't want stealth. I didn't want a tactical entry. I wanted violence. I got back in the SUV. Dante looked at me. What are you doing? I am knocking. I revved the engine. The armored truck growled, a beast waking up. I lined up the grill with the side of the container. Hold on. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor. The truck surged forward. It hit 60 miles per hour in seconds. The impact was deafening. Metal screamed. The container wall crumpled inward. The truck shuddered violently, glass raining down from the shattered headlights. I didn't feel the impact. I didn't feel the airbag deploy. I kicked the door open and stumbled out into the smoke and dust. My ears rang. My vision blurred. Gunfire erupted. My men were moving, engaging the guards Marco had posted outside. I ignored them. I walked into the gap I had made in the wall. The inside of the container was a nightmare. Marco Rossi stood in the center. He was covered in dust, coughing. He held a knife, and behind him, tied to a chair, Elena. She was unrecognizable. Her face was swollen purple and blue. Her lip was split. Blood matted her hair. Her shirt, my shirt, was torn, stained crimson. She wasn't moving. Rage. It wasn't an emotion. It was a physical transformation. It turned my blood to lava. It shut down every higher function of my brain until only one command remained. Destroy. Marco saw me. His eyes went wide. Luca. Wait, I have the codes. She talked. I raised my gun. I didn't aim for his head. That was too quick. Too merciful. I aimed for his hand, the one holding the knife. Bang! Marco screamed. His hand disintegrated. The knife fell. He dropped to his knees, clutching the stump. I walked toward him. I didn't rush. I wanted him to see me coming. I wanted him to know exactly who death was. Luca, please. We can share it. 50-50. I stood over him. I looked down at the man who had sold his daughter, the man who had beaten her. You touched her. I shot him in the knee. He shrieked, collapsing sideways. You broke her. I shot the other knee. He was sobbing now, dragging himself through the dirt. She is mine, Marco. She was always mine. I put the gun to his forehead. Please. I pulled the trigger. The silence that followed was heavy final. I holstered the gun. I turned to Elena. She was awake. Her one good eye was open, watching me. She flinched. She recoiled from me. She tried to push herself back into the chair, away from the monster who had just executed her father. "Don't," she whispered. "Please don't hurt me." The sound of her fear broke me in a way the betrayal never could. I dropped to my knees. The glass on the floor cut into my pants. I didn't care. Elena. I reached for the ropes binding her wrists. My hands shook. Me. The man who could perform surgery with a blade. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the knife to cut her free. "I'm sorry." I choked out. "I'm so sorry." The ropes fell away. She slumped forward. I caught her. She was so light, so fragile. I pulled her into my lap. I wrapped my jacket around her, covering the torn shirt, covering the bruises. She didn't hug me back. She hung limp in my arms. I stood up, lifting her with me. I walked out of the container, out of the smoke and the death. Dante was waiting. He saw Elena. He saw the blood. He looked away, his face pale. "Get the car," I said. My voice was dead. "Drive us home." I looked down at the woman in my arms. I had saved her. I had killed the monster. But looking at the way she flinched, even in her unconscious state, I knew the truth. I was the monster she needed saving from.
Chapter 10. Elena. Consciousness returned like a shard of glass sliding into a wound. Sharp, jagged, immediate. The first thing I registered was the taste of copper. My mouth was full of it. Thick, metallic blood coated my tongue and throat. I tried to move. My body refused. My arms were wrenched behind me, secured with rough hemp rope that bit deep into my wrists, cutting off circulation. My ankles were bound to the legs of a heavy metal chair. I blinked, fighting the crust of dried blood sealing my eyelids. My left eye wouldn't open fully. It felt swollen, heavy, pulsating with a dull throb that synced with the frantic beat of my heart. The air smelled of brine, rust, and the sour stench of unwashed bodies. A shipyard. "Welcome back." The voice was casual, bored. I forced my good eye to focus. Marco Rossi stood 5 feet away. He leaned against a metal workbench, tossing a pair of heavy pliers from one hand to the other. Thwack. Thwack. He looked like a man preparing to fix a leaky pipe, not a man preparing to dismantle his only child. I coughed, spitting a glob of red onto the corrugated metal floor. Where am I? My voice was a ruin. A rasp of sandpaper over gravel. Container 44, dead sector. It's soundproof, sweetheart. You could scream until your vocal cords snap. No one is coming. He pushed off the table and walked toward me. The light from the single hanging bulb swung overhead, casting long, swaying shadows that danced across his face. He didn't look crazy. That would have been easier to process. He looked disappointed. "I need the codes, Elena." I slumped against the ropes. My shoulders screamed in protest. "I don't have them. Wrong answer." He didn't wind up. He didn't shout. He just backhanded me. The impact snapped my head to the side. Fresh pain exploded in my jaw, blinding white and hot. My teeth clashed together. "Try again," he said. "The daily encryption key, or better yet, the seed algorithm. Write it down, and we walk out of here. It changes every 24 hours. I wheezed. "Even if I gave it to you, the money moves. It's a ghost." "Then summon the ghost." He grabbed my chin, his fingers digging into the bruising flesh. He forced me to look at him. to look at the eyes that were the same shape as mine. I'm doing this for us, Elena. The cartel isn't patient. They want their 500 million. If I pay them, we disappear. Rio. The Maldives. A fresh start. A fresh start. I remembered the last fresh start. I was 6. He gambled away our house in Jersey. We lived in a motel for 3 months while he promised my mother he had a system. You mean you disappear? I spat. You sold me to Vitti like a used car. You traded me for a debt you were too weak to pay. I gave you a purpose, he shouted, spittle landing on my cheek. You were rotting in that apartment, fixing laptops for minimum wage. I put you in the palace. I gave you a king, you gave me a cage, and you liked it. He sneered, leaning in close. He smelled of stale tobacco and desperation. I saw the footage, Elena. I saw how you looked at him. You fell for the monster. You let him parade you around in silk while I was living in the gutter. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the accusation hit a target he didn't even know existed. I had fallen for the monster. Even now, tied to this chair, battered and bleeding because of Marco's greed, my mind wasn't on the pain. It was on Luca. I thought of his hands on my waist at the gala, the way he burned my hoodie, the way he touched my face in the server room. You are dangerous, Elena. If I gave Marco the codes, Luca lost everything. His empire, his power, his safety. And Sophia. I had promised Dante, protect her. If Marco got the money, the Vitti family would be hunted, ruined. I looked my father in the eye. Go to hell. Marco sighed. He shook his head, looking at the ceiling as if asking for patience. I didn't want to do this. You are making me do this. He reached down. He grabbed my left hand. He isolated the index finger. He raised the pliers. Last chance. I clenched my teeth so hard I thought they would crack. I locked my muscles. I stared at him with every ounce of hatred I possessed. Marco clamped the cold steel jaws around my fingernail. And he pulled. The scream tore out of me before I could stop it. It was a raw, primal sound that shredded my throat. It filled the small metal box, bouncing off the walls, deafening and useless. Marco dropped the bloody nail on the floor. It made a tiny tink sound against the steel. 1 down, he said calmly. 9 to go. Pain became the only reality. It wasn't a sensation anymore. It was an environment. I lived inside it. I breathed it. My hand was a ruin. 3 fingers broken, 2 nails gone. I hadn't spoken. I don't know where the strength came from. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was the realization that Marco Rossi had never been a father. He had only ever been a pimp, and I was his last asset. Or maybe it was Luca. Maybe I kept my mouth shut because I knew that Luca Vitti would rather burn the world than let someone take what was his. And for a little while, I had been his. Marco paced the container. He was sweating now. The calm facade was cracking. He checked his watch. He muttered to himself. Stubborn. Just like her mother. Stupid, stubborn bitch. He kicked my chair. My head snapped back, darkness swimming at the edges of my vision. Tell me, he screamed. Give me the goddamn code. I can't, I whispered. The words were a slur of blood and exhaustion. He grabbed a knife from the workbench. A long, serrated blade used for cutting rope. Fine. We are done with the hands. He stalked toward me. The blade caught the light. If you want to be silent, be silent. But you don't need a pretty face to type. He grabbed a handful of my hair, yanking my head back. He pressed the cold tip of the knife against my cheekbone, just below my good eye. I can carve you up, Elena. I can make you a monster. No man will ever look at you again. Not Vitti. Not anyone. He pressed harder. The skin broke. A warm trickle of blood slid down my neck. The code. Now. I closed my eyes. I was going to die here. Marco wouldn't let me live after this. I was a loose end. I pictured Luca. Not the Don, not the killer, but the man who sat on the floor of the server room and told me I was dangerous. I'm sorry, Luca. I tried. I kept your secrets. I braced myself for the steal. A sound vibrated through the floor. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a siren. It was a growl. Deep. Mechanical. Getting louder. Marco froze. He lifted the knife from my face, turning toward the wall of the container. What the dash, dash, dash? The roar became a deafening scream of an engine redlining. The metal wall behind Marco didn't just bend. It disintegrated. Crash! The world ended in a shriek of tearing steel. The entire side of the shipping container buckled inward. A massive black grill smashed through the corrugated iron like it was paper, flattening the workbench, sending tools flying like shrapnel. Dust and smoke exploded into the room, blinding and choking. I gasped, coughing as the grit filled my lungs. The vehicle reversed, the engine snarling like a rabid beast, dragging a twisted sheet of metal with it. A hole. A jagged, gaping wound in the side of my prison. The dust swirled in the sudden draft. Through the haze, a figure emerged. He stepped over the wreckage of the wall. He wore a suit that cost more than this entire shipyard. He held a gun in each hand. He didn't check the corners. He didn't clear the room. He walked straight into the light. Luca. He didn't look like a man. He looked like the Reaper himself, come to collect a soul. His face was a mask of terrifying, frozen fury. His eyes were voids. He saw me. He saw the blood, the ropes, the ruin of my hand. For a heartbeat, the Reaper faltered. A flash of something raw, horror maybe, or agony, twisted his features. Then his gaze snapped to Marco, and the world went black.
Chapter 11. Luca. The airbag tasted of burnt nylon and violence. I punched the deflating white bag, fighting my way out of the crushed cab. The armored truck groaned, metal screeching against metal as the chassis settled into the ruin of the shipping container. My ears rang. A high-pitched whine drowned out the distant sirens, the shouting of my men outside, the chaos of the world. I didn't care about the world. I kicked the driver's side door open. It flew off its hinges, clattering onto the asphalt. I stumbled out. The air inside the container was a thick gray fog of pulverized concrete and rust. It coated my tongue, gritty and dry. I raised my guns. The Sig Sauer in my right hand, the Beretta in my left. I stepped through the jagged hole I had carved into the steel wall. The dust swirled, thick and choking. I didn't cough. I didn't blink. I scanned the room for threats, for movement, for life. And then the dust settled. The sight hit me harder than the impact of the crash. Marco Rossi stood near the back wall, coughing, covered in white debris. He held a long, serrated knife, and shielding him, dragged up against his chest like a doll, was Elena. My heart seized. It stopped beating, freezing the blood in my veins. She was a ruin. Her face, the face I had held, the face I had kissed, was swollen purple and black. Blood matted her hair, sticking the dark strands to her forehead. Her lip was split wide open, but it was her hand that broke me. Her left hand hung limp at her side. The fingers were twisted, broken. The rage didn't come as a fire. It came as a glacier. Massive, cold, unstoppable. It buried the guilt, buried the fear, buried the man named Luca Vitti. Only the monster remained. Marco saw me. His eyes bulged white in his dust-coated face. Luca! Wait! He tightened his grip on Elena. He pressed the serrated blade into the soft skin of her throat. A fresh line of red appeared, sliding down to stain the collar of the shirt I had given her. "Stay back!" he screamed, his voice cracking with hysteria. "I'll kill her! I swear to God, Luca, I'll open her up." I didn't stop walking. My boots crunched on broken glass and twisted metal. I stepped over the wreckage of a workbench. "Let her go, Marco." My voice was dead. It was the sound of a coffin lid slamming shut. "I want a helicopter," he shouted, dragging Elena backward. She stumbled, her legs useless. "I want $5 million in cash and a plane to Colombia." I stopped 10 feet away. I raised the cig. The barrel didn't waver. "You want a lot of things," I said, "but you are going to get only one." Marco licked his lips, sweat cutting tracks through the dust on his face. "What?" "A closed casket." He flinched. The knife dug deeper. Elena whimpered, a small, broken sound that tore through my chest like shrapnel. "You touched her," I said. "She is my daughter. She is mine." I fired. The gunshot was deafening in the steel box. I didn't aim for his head. That was too quick, too merciful. The bullet shattered his right elbow. The arm holding the knife. Bone disintegrated. The limb snapped backward at a sickening angle. Marco screamed. The knife clattered to the floor. He shoved Elena away in his agony. She fell. The chair tipped over, slamming her hard against the metal floor. She didn't cry out. She just lay there, a pile of broken limbs and white silk. Marco stumbled back, clutching the ruin of his arm. "You crazy bastard! You shot me!" I walked toward him. I holstered the Beretta. I grabbed him by the throat. I lifted him off the ground and slammed him against the wall of the container. His feet dangled inches from the floor. He clawed at my wrist with his good hand, his nails digging into my skin. "You broke her fingers." Marco gagged, his face turning purple. "Please." I dropped him. He crumpled to the floor, weeping, curling into a ball. I stood over him. I looked down at the man who had traded his child for a gambling debt. The man who had tortured her because I was too stupid to trust her. "You made her bleed." I aimed the gun at his kneecap. Bang! His scream was high and thin, like a rabbit caught in a trap. I shifted aim. The other knee. Bang! Marco collapsed onto his back, sobbing, his legs useless ruin. "She didn't tell you," I said. The realization was a heavy stone in my gut. "She didn't give you the code." "No." Marco choked out, tears streaming down his face. "No, she didn't. She protected me. Even after I threw her to the wolves, even after I ordered her death. She took the pain. She took the hammer to her hands. To save me." I looked at her. She lay in the debris, unmoving. Her one good eye was open, watching me. I saw the terror in it. She wasn't looking at me like a savior. She was looking at me like I was the devil. I turned back to Marco. "She is better than us, Marco. Better than both of us." I pressed the muzzle of the gun to his forehead. The metal was hot. "And that is why I have to kill you. Because as long as you are alive, she will never be safe." "Wait!" Marco begged. "I'm her father. You can't." Bang! The shot ended the begging. It ended the lies. It ended Marco Rossi. The silence rushed back in, heavy, final. I holstered the gun. I turned to Elena. My legs felt weak. The adrenaline was fading. leaving behind a crushing weight of horror. I walked to her. I knelt in the glass and dirt. I didn't care about the suit. I didn't care about the blood. I reached for her. She flinched. She recoiled from me, trying to push herself backward with her broken hands, a sharp intake of breath hissing through her teeth. "Don't," she whispered. "Please don't hurt me." The words gutted me. They cut deeper than any knife Marco could have wielded. "Please don't hurt me." She thought I was going to finish what her father started. I froze. My hands hovered in the air, trembling. "Elena." My voice cracked. It was barely a whisper. I saw the knife on the floor. I picked it up. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the cut. I sliced the ropes binding her wrists. Her arms fell free, limp and heavy. I cut the ropes at her ankles. I threw the knife away. It clattered into the corner. I pulled her into my lap. She was so light, so fragile. I wrapped my arms around her, burying my face in the crook of her neck. The smell of blood and fear was overwhelming, but underneath it, faint and fading, was the scent of the floral soap she used. "I'm sorry," I choked out. The words felt useless, small against the magnitude of my failure. "I'm so sorry." She didn't hug me back. She couldn't. Her hands were ruined. But she didn't push me away. She leaned into me, her head resting on my shoulder. A small, ragged sigh escaped her lips. "Luca," she breathed. "I'm here. I've got you." I stood up, lifting her with me. I walked out of the container, out of the smoke and the death. Dante was waiting by the ruined truck. He looked at Elena. He looked at the blood. He looked away, his face pale with the same guilt that was eating me alive. "Get the car," I said. My voice was dead. "Drive us home." I looked down at the woman in my arms. Her eye had drifted shut. She was unconscious. I had saved her. I had killed the monster. But as I carried her toward the waiting SUV, the truth settled in my bones like lead. The monster wasn't dead. He was holding her.
Chapter 12. Elena. The darkness was not black. It was a throbbing, angry red that pulsed in time with the jackhammer inside my skull. Consciousness didn't come in a wave. It came in disjointed shards. The smell of antiseptic fighting a losing battle against the scent of sandalwood. The soft beep of a monitor. The weight of a heavy blanket. I tried to open my eyes. Pain spiked through my face, sharp and blinding. My eyelids felt fused shut, heavy and swollen. Panic, cold and immediate, flooded my chest. I can't see. I thrashed, my limbs tangling in the sheets. A whimper tore from my throat, raw and dry. "Shh. Easy. Elena, stop." Hands were on me instantly, large, warm, calloused. They pressed my shoulders down into the mattress, not with force, but with a grounding, solid weight. "You're safe." The voice was a low rumble right next to my ear. It cracked with exhaustion. "You are in the fortress. You are safe. Luca." The name was a prayer and a curse. I reached out blindly. My left hand, the broken one, was wrapped in a splint. My right hand clawed at the air until it hit a solid chest. Cotton. Muscle. Heat. I grabbed his shirt. I bunched the fabric in my fist, needing to anchor myself to something real. "I can't see." My voice was a broken whisper. "Why can't I see?" Swelling. His hand moved to my hair, stroking the matted strands away from my forehead. "The doctor said the trauma to your face caused significant edema. It will go down in a few days. You aren't blind, Elena. Just in the dark for a little while. I slumped back against the pillows. The adrenaline crash left me shaking. Luca, I'm here. I'm not leaving. How long? 3 days. Ice water flooded my veins. The monitor's beeping accelerated. 3 days? The code. I tried to sit up again, ignoring the agony in my ribs. The quarantine, I gasped. It resets every 24 hours. If I don't patch it, the virus wipes the accounts. The money. It's gone. It has to be gone. $500 million evaporated because I was unconscious. Luca pushed me back down. His grip was firmer this time. Elena, breathe. You don't understand. The deadline passed. It's all gone. It isn't gone. I froze. What? It isn't gone. The money is safe. The patch was applied. How? I asked, confusion warring with the pain. Who did it? No one else knows the architecture. No one else knows the syntax. You did. I shook my head, the movement sending fresh spikes of pain through my temples. I've been asleep. You were delirious. He shifted. The mattress dipped as he sat on the edge of the bed. He took my good hand in his. His thumb traced the pulse point on my wrist. The first night. You were burning up with fever. You were thrashing, crying out about the sequence. You kept saying enter, shift, command, over and over. His voice dropped lower. It sounded thick. Wrecked. I brought the terminal to the bed. I put it on your lap. I placed your hands on the keys. You couldn't open your eyes. You were barely conscious. But the moment your fingers touched the board, you started typing. I listened to him, the image forming in the red darkness. Me, broken and feverish. Him, desperate and watching. Muscle memory, he whispered. You recoded the firewall, blind Elena. You saved my empire while you were half dead because of me. A tear leaked from my swollen eye. It burned a track through the bruising on my cheek. Why did you let me do it? I whispered. Why didn't you let it burn? Because you were trying to save me. Even then. And I couldn't take that away from you. He lifted my hand to his lips. He kissed the knuckles, then the palm. His mouth was warm, but his hands were shaking. I thought I lost you. He murmured against my skin. When I walked into that container, when I saw what he did, you sent me there. The words hung in the air. Heavy. True. He stiffened. He didn't pull away, but the tension radiating off him was a physical force. I know. The admission was jagged. I failed you. I let my pride and my paranoia blind me. I broke the only thing that ever mattered. I didn't answer. I couldn't absolve him. Not yet. The memory of the desert, of the cold wind and the long walk back to hell, was still too fresh. I need a bath, I said. I smell like blood. I'll get the nurses. No. I tightened my grip on his hand. No strangers. I don't want anyone to see me like this. Silence stretched for a heartbeat. Then I will do it. The bathroom was a cavern of echoes and steam. I sat on the edge of the massive tub. The heat of the water radiated against my back, loosening the tight knots of tension in my spine. I heard Luca moving, the rustle of fabric, the clink of glass bottles. He undressed me. It was a slow, agonizing process. He unbuttoned the silk pajama top he must have put on me earlier. He peeled the fabric away from my skin with the reverence of a man handling a holy relic. He hissed in a breath when he saw my ribs. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hide the bruising, trying to hide the ugliness of what his world had done to me. Don't look, I whispered. I have to look, he said. I have to see every mark. I have to remember exactly what my doubt cost. He lifted me. I was weightless in his arms. He lowered me into the water. The heat was a shock, then a balm. It enveloped me, turning the pain into a dull, distant throb. The scent of lavender rose with the steam, masking the metallic tang of the shipyard. Luca knelt beside the tub. I couldn't see him, but I could feel his presence like a gravitational field. He washed me. He used a soft sponge. He started at my feet, working his way up my calves, my thighs. His touch was clinical, careful, but the intimacy of it burned hotter than the water. He washed my arms. He was incredibly gentle with my splinted hand, keeping it elevated above the water. He washed my chest. He traced the dark bruises on my ribs with his fingertips. "I'm broken," I murmured. The drugs were making me loose, unearthing the fears I usually kept buried. "I'm ugly." The water shifted. His wet hand cupped my jaw, his thumb brushing my bottom lip. "You are not ugly." His voice was fierce. A growl. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. You are survival, Elena. You are fire." He leaned closer. I felt his breath on my wet skin. My doubt did this. My fear. "Not you. You are perfect. I am the one who is ruined." He washed my hair. He massaged my scalp, his fingers working out the dried blood and the dust. He rinsed the suds away with a cup, the water cascading down my back. When it was done, he lifted me out. He wrapped me in a towel that felt like a cloud. He patted me dry, blotting the moisture from my skin instead of rubbing. He carried me back to bed. He laid me down against the fresh, cool sheets. He covered me with the duvet. I heard him walk to the wall. The soft beep of the control panel echoed in the quiet room. 72 degrees, he whispered. "Just the way you like it." A small smile tugged at my bruised lip. He remembered the war we had waged over the thermostat. It felt like a lifetime ago. He sat on the edge of the mattress. I could hear his breathing. Heavy, ragged. "Stay," I said. He hesitated. "Elena, I don't want to be alone in the dark." The mattress shifted. He lay down on top of the covers, keeping a respectful distance. Number 1, I reached out, finding his arm. Closer. He moved. He slid under the duvet. He was wearing only his boxer briefs. His skin was hot against mine. Solid. Real. I scooted backward until my back was pressed against his chest. I fit my body into the curve of his. He stiffened, afraid to hurt me. "Hold me," I commanded. He exhaled a shuddering breath. His arm came around my waist. He pulled me in tight, anchoring me against him, his face buried in the crook of my neck. We lay there in the silence. Two broken people trying to make a whole. The pain meds were wearing off, the sharp edges of the world returning. But the pain wasn't what scared me. It was the distance, the emotional chasm his betrayal had created. I needed to bridge it. I needed to know that we were still us. Luca. Kiss me. He went still. "Elena. Your face. You are swollen. It will hurt. It hurts anyway. I want to feel something else." He moved. He rolled me gently onto my back. He hovered over me, his weight supported on his elbows. His hand cupped my cheek. His thumb brushed over my eyelid, a feather-light touch. He lowered his mouth to mine. It wasn't the kiss of a conqueror. It wasn't the hungry, desperate clash we had shared on the dance floor. It was an offering. His lips were incredibly soft. He kissed the corner of my mouth, avoiding the split in the center. He kissed my jaw. He kissed the pulse fluttering in my throat. It was slow, agonizingly sweet. It was an apology written in breath and touch. I whimpered, arching into him. My hands, the good one and the broken one, came up to grip his shoulders. He groaned low in his throat. The vibration traveled through my chest. "I love you," he whispered against my lips. The words stopped time. He hadn't said it before. He had said I was his. He had said I was valuable. But he hadn't said this. "I love you, Elena. I love your mind. I love your spine. I love the way you fight." He kissed me again, deeper this time. His tongue swept into my mouth, tasting me. "I love you too," I whispered back. The dam broke. The heat flared, chasing away the cold memory of the container. He was careful with my ribs, careful with my hand, but his desire was a palpable weight. It pressed against me, demanding and giving all at once. He stripped off his boxers. He helped me out of the pajama bottoms. When he entered me, it was slow. He watched my face. I knew he was watching, scanning for any sign of pain. I sighed, my body relaxing around him. It felt like coming home. He moved with a restraint that must have cost him everything. He took my weight. He shielded me. He worshipped my broken body with his own. In the red darkness behind my eyes, I saw flashes of light. I felt the calluses on his hands, the beat of his heart against mine. I wasn't the prisoner anymore. I wasn't the debt. I was the woman who had saved the king, and he was the king who was kneeling at my feet. When it was over, he didn't pull away. He held me. He stroked my hair until my breathing evened out. "Sleep," he whispered into the dark. "I've got you." And for the first time in 3 days, I believed him.
Chapter 13. Luca, peace was a lie. It was a fragile veneer stretched thin over a world that hungered for chaos. I had bought into the illusion for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of silence. 2 weeks of Elena healing in my bed. 2 weeks where the only battles I fought were against my own guilt. But the world always corrects itself. The alarm didn't scream. It didn't wail. It pulsed. A low, throbbing bass note that vibrated through the steel bones of the fortress. I sat up. The movement was instant, a reflex honed by years of sleeping with one eye open. Elena stirred beside me. She reached for me, her hand brushing my bare chest. "Luca." Her voice was thick with sleep. "What is that?" I was out of bed before she finished the sentence. I grabbed my pants from the floor, pulling them on as I strode to the window. Outside, the Las Vegas skyline was burning. Not the whole city, just the street below. A plume of black smoke rose from the lobby entrance. Flashing lights, not police but private security strobes, cut through the haze. They are here. I didn't need a report. I didn't need Dante to tell me who they were. The rival cartel. The men who had backed Marco. The men who wanted their $500 million. They weren't hacking the firewall this time. They were kicking down the front door. I turned back to the bed. Elena was sitting up, clutching the sheet to her chest. Her eyes were wide, the fear in them a knife in my gut. "Get up," I ordered. "Put on shoes." She scrambled out of bed. She didn't ask questions. She grabbed the sneakers I had bought her, the ones that replaced the heels she hated, and shoved her feet into them. The door burst open. Dante stood there. He was fully geared up. Kevlar vest, assault rifle. His face was a mask of grim determination. "Perimeter is breached," he said. "They used an RPG on the main doors. We have 20 hostiles in the lobby, another team scaling the north face. How long until they reach the penthouse?" 5 minutes. Maybe less. I grabbed my shirt. I didn't bother buttoning it. I strapped on my shoulder holster, checking the load in my Sig Sauer. "Lock down the elevators," I said. "Flood the stairwells with gas. Already done." But they have climbers. They are coming up the outside. I looked at Elena. She stood by the dresser, pale and trembling. She looked small, fragile, but her chin was up. "Where do you want me?" she asked. I crossed the room. I framed her face in my hands. Her skin was cool. The panic room. Number 1, I can help. I can monitor the feeds. You can stay alive. I kissed her. It was hard, fast, a promise and a goodbye. "Dante, take her." Dante nodded. "Come on, Elena." She looked at me one last time. "Be careful." I didn't answer. I turned away, the monster rising to the surface. I watched Dante lead her into the hidden corridor behind the bookcase. The steel door hissed shut, sealing her in a vault of reinforced concrete and independent oxygen. She was safe. Now I could go to work. "Sophia!" I shouted her name as I stormed into the hallway. The penthouse was chaos. My soldiers were moving, taking positions at the windows and the main doors. Sophia ran out of her room. She was wearing pajamas, her hair wild. "Dad! What is happening?" "Get to the panic room." I pointed to the library. "Go!" She froze. She looked around. "Where is Dante?" "He is busy." "Go." "But he isn't with you." "He is securing the perimeter." "Sophia, move." She didn't move. She looked at the front door, then at the balcony. "He is outside, isn't he?" I grabbed her arm. "This isn't a debate. Get in the room." An explosion rocked the building. The glass wall of the living room shattered. Shards rained down like diamond hail. The shock wave threw me back. I hit the wall, the breath leaving my lungs in a rush. Sophia screamed. Men in black tactical gear swung through the broken windows. They rappelled from the roof, crashing into my home like demons falling from the sky. Gunfire erupted. It was deafening. The sharp crack of rifles, the boom of shotguns. I rolled. I came up firing. 2 of the invaders dropped. I scrambled toward Sophia. She was on the floor, covering her head. "Get up!" I hauled her to her feet. I shoved her toward the hallway. "Run!" She ran. But she didn't run toward the library. She ran toward the kitchen, toward the service exit. Sophia! I couldn't chase her. 3 more men dropped onto the balcony. I took cover behind the marble island. Bullets chewed up the stone, sending chips flying into my face. This wasn't a hit. This was a siege. They didn't want to negotiate. They wanted to erase the Vitti name from the earth. I reloaded. I popped up. I fired. Controlled bursts. Headshots. I was a good shot. But there were too many of them. "Dante!" I roared into my comms. "Status, east stairwell holds. But they are in the vents. They are bypassing the gas. Where is Sophia?" "I don't know." "She isn't in the panic room?" She ran. "Find her, Dante! Forget the perimeter! Find my daughter!" Copy. I dropped back down as a fresh wave of bullets decimated the expensive liquor bottles behind the bar. Alcohol and glass rained down. The air smelled of cordite and expensive scotch. I checked my mag. 3 rounds. I needed a bigger gun. I crawled toward the weapons cache hidden in the floorboards of the dining room. I kept my head low, moving through the debris. A shadow fell over me. I looked up. A man stood over me, He wore a balaclava. He held a combat knife. He didn't shoot. He lunged. We hit the floor. The knife sparked against the marble inches from my throat. He was heavy, strong. I kneed him in the groin. He grunted, but didn't let go. He drove the knife down. I caught his wrist. My muscles strained. The tip of the blade hovered a millimeter from my jugular. I looked into his eyes. They were dead. Empty. "You lose, Vitti." He hissed. I bared my teeth. "Not today." I twisted my hips. I bucked him off. We scrambled to our feet. He slashed. I dodged. The blade cut the air near my face. I stepped in. I grabbed his arm. I broke it. The snap was loud. Satisfying. He screamed. He dropped the knife. I picked it up. I drove it into his chest. He fell. I stood over him, breathing hard. My shirt was torn. Blood, his and mine, slicked my skin. More of them were coming. I could hear them in the hallway. I grabbed the assault rifle from his dead hands. I checked the chamber. Full. I walked toward the hallway. I wasn't the Don anymore. I wasn't a businessman. I was the thing they should have feared. I moved through the penthouse, room by room. I cleared them with prejudice. I found 2 men in my office trying to hack the computer. I shot them both in the back. I found another in the gym. He was trying to set a charge on the support pillar. I put a bullet in his head before he could trigger the detonator. But I couldn't find Sophia. The panic began to rise, a cold, sharp fear that cut through the battle rage. If they had her. My earpiece crackled. Luca, it was Elena. Elena? You are supposed to be offline. I hacked the internal feed. They have Sophia. My heart stopped. Where? The West Terrace. They are trying to extract her. They have a chopper coming in. I spun around. The West Terrace, the helipad. I ran. I sprinted through the ruins of my home. I vaulted over overturned furniture. I slipped on blood. I burst onto the terrace. The wind whipped my hair. The sound of rotor blades beat the air. A helicopter hovered above the pad. A rope ladder dangled. 3 men were dragging Sophia toward it. She was fighting. She was kicking and screaming, but they were too strong. I raised the rifle. I couldn't shoot. Sophia was in the line of fire. "Let her go!" I roared. They ignored me. The first man grabbed the ladder. He hauled Sophia up. I dropped the rifle. I drew my pistol. I had to make the shot. I had to thread the needle. I aimed. A figure burst from the stairwell door. Dante. He didn't have a gun. He had lost it. Or maybe he had emptied it. He didn't stop. He ran straight at them. He tackled the man holding Sophia. They went down in a tangle of limbs. Sophia scrambled free. "Run, Sophia!" Dante shouted. She hesitated. She looked at him. "Dante!" The other 2 men turned their weapons on him. Dante scrambled up. He put himself between the guns and Sophia. He spread his arms. He was a shield, a human wall. "No!" Sophia screamed. The men fired. I saw the impacts. 1, 2, 3. Dante jerked. Dust puffs exploded from his vest. But he didn't fall. Not yet. He charged. He slammed into the shooters. The momentum carried them all over the edge of the railing. They fell. Dante fell with them. Dante! Sophia's scream tore the night apart. I ran to the edge. I looked down. The two mercenaries had fallen to the street below, dead. But Dante, he had caught the edge of the lower balcony. He was hanging by one hand. Blood poured from his chest. I holstered my gun. I vaulted over the railing. I landed on the balcony below. The impact jarred my bones. I ran to him. I grabbed his wrist just as his fingers slipped. I hauled him up. He was heavy, dead weight. I pulled him over the rail. He collapsed onto the concrete. He was gasping. Pink froth bubbled on his lips. The vest had stopped some of it, but not all. I ripped the Velcro open. 3 hits. 1 low in the gut. 2 high near the collarbone. Dante, stay with me. He looked up at me. His eyes were unfocused. Is she safe? She is safe. Good. He coughed. Blood splattered his chin. His hand fumbled at his belt. Something fell out of his pocket. It clattered onto the stone. A badge. Gold. Shield. Federal Bureau of Investigation. I stared at it. The world tilted. Dante, my head of security, my right hand. A federal. The rage that had fueled me through the fight turned cold. Ice cold. He was a rat, a traitor. He had been lying to me for years. I reached for my gun. He saw the movement. He didn't try to stop me. He just closed his eyes. Do it. He whispered. I pointed the gun at his head. My finger tightened on the trigger. Dad, no! Sophia dropped onto the balcony. She had climbed down. She threw herself over Dante's body. Get away from him, Sophia. He saved me. He saved my life. He is a rat. He is FBI. I don't care. She clung to him. She shielded him with her own body. Look at me, she screamed. Look at what he did. He took bullets for me. Does a rat do that? I hesitated. The gun wavered. Elena's voice crackled in my ear. Luca, put the gun down. I looked up at the security camera. He saved your daughter. He spared me. The debt is paid. I looked at Dante, bleeding out on my balcony. I looked at my daughter, the fierce, terrifying love in her eyes. I looked at the badge. I lowered the gun. I picked up the badge. I looked at the photo ID, Special Agent Dante Ricci. I threw it over the railing, into the night. Get the medics, I said. Sophia sobbed. Thank you. Oh God, thank you. I looked at Dante. His eyes were open again, watching me. The agent died in the shootout, I said. Dante nodded weakly. The man works for me now. I stood up. The helicopter peeled away, realizing the extraction had failed. The sirens below grew louder. The war was over. We had won. But as I looked at the wreckage of my home, at the blood on my hands, at the traitor bleeding on my floor, I knew the cost, and it was higher than any debt I had ever collected.
Chapter 14. Elena. The panic room was a misnomer. It wasn't a room for panic. It was a concrete tomb buried in the heart of the penthouse, designed for control. The air was sterile, filtered and silent. But the 12 high-definition monitors on the wall screamed chaos. I sat in the ergonomic chair, my hands flying across the terminal. My eyes, one still swollen, the other burning with strain, flickered between the feeds. The fortress wasn't just burning, it was being dismantled. Smoke billowed through the hallways, thick and oily. It obscured the cameras, turning the feed into a gray nightmare lit by the strobe light flashes of muzzle fire. I checked the server diagnostics. Firewall status: integrity 100%. External access denied. Biometric locks active. A grim, cold satisfaction settled in my chest. They didn't hack us. They tried. I saw the logs, thousands of ping attempts in the last hour, brute force algorithms clawing at the gates I had built. But my code held. The quarantine I wrote was a diamond wall. They couldn't scratch it. They couldn't bypass the locks. They couldn't loop the cameras. So they changed the rules. They couldn't pick the lock. So they brought a sledgehammer. An RPG to the lobby doors, shaped charges on the elevator shafts. They were using kinetic warfare because they had lost the digital one. My code forced them to make noise. It forced them to reveal themselves. I wasn't just a passenger in this siege. I was the architect of their frustration. I typed a command. Execute. Fire suppression override. Zone 4. I didn't activate the sprinklers. Water would ruin the servers. I triggered the halon gas system in the lower hallways. It wouldn't kill the invaders, but it would suck the oxygen out of the air for 30 seconds. Enough to make them dizzy. Enough to slow them down. On the main screen, I tracked Luca. He moved through the smoke like a wraith. He was terrifying. He didn't just shoot. He dismantled people. I watched him engage 3 men near the library. It was over in seconds. Brutal. Efficient. A choreography of death. He was fighting his way back to me, to the panic room. But he was alone. Where is Sophia? The question was a shard of ice in my stomach. I switched feeds. I scanned the cameras, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my bruised ribs. Library, empty. Kitchen, empty. West Terrace. There. My breath hitched. Sophia was on the terrace. She was running, her bare feet slipping on the wet marble. The wind whipped her dark hair across her face, blinding her. She wasn't alone. A helicopter hovered above the pad, its rotor wash flattening the potted plants. A rope ladder dangled, swaying violently in the wind. 3 men in tactical gear were chasing her. They weren't shooting. They were trying to grab her. They wanted a hostage. They knew they couldn't get the money. My encryption had locked it down, so they were going for the leverage. Luca! I shouted at the screen, though he couldn't hear me. I fumbled for the comms button. The panel was damaged from the explosions vibrating the walls, the light flickering amber. Luca! They have Sophia! West Terrace! Static hissed back at me. I tried again, my voice rising to a scream. Luca! Sector 9! I hear you! His voice was breathless, strained. I'm coming. I watched the screen, helpless. The first man caught Sophia. He grabbed her arm, spinning her around. She fought him. She scratched and kicked, a wild thing fighting for her life. But he was too strong. He dragged her toward the swaying ladder. Luca burst onto the terrace. He raised his rifle. He aimed. He didn't fire. He couldn't. Sophia was directly in the line of fire. If he missed by an inch, he would kill his own child. I saw him hesitate. I saw the agony in his posture. The most dangerous man in Vegas was paralyzed. The man hauled Sophia up the first rung of the ladder. Then the stairwell door exploded outward. Dante, he didn't have a gun. He must have lost it in the fight, or emptied it holding the stairwell. His vest was torn, his face a mask of blood and soot. He didn't stop. He didn't assess. He didn't look for cover. He launched himself across the terrace. He hit the man holding Sophia like a linebacker. They went down in a tangle of limbs. Sophia scrambled free, crawling away on her hands and knees. Run! Dante screamed. I saw his mouth move on the silent feed. Sophia hesitated. She looked back, terror etched on her face. Dante! The other two mercenaries turned their weapons on him. Dante scrambled up. He didn't run. He didn't try to save himself. He stepped in front of Sophia. He spread his arms. He made himself a wall. "Number 1, I whispered. The men fired. The muzzle flashes were bright, blinding white against the dark sky. I saw the impacts. 1, 2, 3. Dante jerked. Dust puffed from his Kevlar vest. He stumbled back, hit in the chest, the shoulder, the gut. But he didn't fall. He roared. A silent scream of defiance that shook the camera frame. He charged. He slammed into the shooters, his momentum carrying them backward. He drove them toward the edge of the terrace. They hit the railing. The metal groaned and buckled under their combined weight. They fell, all 3 of them. Dante went over the edge with them. "Dante!" I screamed his name. On the screen, Luca ran to the edge. He vaulted over the railing without hesitation. I switched cameras. Exterior view. Dante was hanging by one hand from the lower balcony. Blood poured from his chest, slicking the concrete. Luca grabbed his wrist. He hauled him up with a heave of massive strength. He pulled Dante over the rail. Dante collapsed, a broken heap on the stone. Sophia dropped onto the balcony a second later. She had climbed down the trellis. She threw herself onto Dante, her hands pressing against his chest, trying to stop the bleeding. I zoomed in. Dante was gasping. Pink froth bubbled on his lips. His hand fumbled at his belt. Something fell out of his shattered tactical vest. It clattered onto the stone, glittering in the strobe lights of the security system. It wasn't a badge. It was worse. A sleek, black rectangle. A satellite uplink device. Federal issue. I recognized it immediately. It was the same device I had seen on the table that night. The device used to communicate with a handler. I froze. Luca stared at it. The camera captured his face perfectly. The shock. The realization. The rage. He looked at Dante, then he looked at the device. Traitor. Luca reached for his gun. Number. I slammed my hand onto the console. I had to stop him. Dante was a Fed. He was a mole. He had been lying to us for years, but he had just died, or close to it, for Sophia. He had chosen the girl over the mission. I hacked the intercom system. I overrode the lockdown on the external speakers. Luca! My voice boomed over the terrace, amplified by the emergency system. Luca froze. His gun was leveled at Dante's head. Put the gun down. He looked up at the camera. His eyes were cold. Dead. He is a rat, Elena. His voice came through the comms in my ear, distorted by fury. Look at the tech. He's a Fed. He saved her. I screamed into the mic. Look at him. He took 3 bullets for your daughter. Does a rat do that? Luca looked at Dante. He looked at Sophia, who was shielding Dante's body with her own, sobbing, begging her father not to shoot. He spared me, Luca, I said, my voice softer now, pleading. In the desert. He had orders to kill me. He let me go. He saved us both. Luca's hand wavered. The debt is paid. Silence stretched, heavy and terrible. The wind howled over the microphone. Then Luca lowered the gun. He holstered it. He picked up the satellite device. He crushed it in his hand, plastic shattering, and threw the pieces over the railing into the night. He said something to Sophia. I couldn't hear it, but I saw her collapse in relief. He keyed his radio. Get the medics. Now. I slumped back in the chair. The adrenaline drained out of me, leaving me shaking. The smoke on the screens began to clear. The invaders were dead or fleeing. The helicopter peeled away into the night, abandoning the mission. It was over. We had won. But as I watched Luca kneel beside the man who had come to destroy him, I knew nothing would ever be the same. Dante Ricci, the agent, was dead. Dante, the man who loved Sophia, had just been born. And he belonged to Luca now.
Chapter 15. Luca. The silence following the gunfire was not peaceful. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket woven from smoke and the metallic tang of copper. I stood on the balcony, my chest heaving. The desert wind, usually hot, felt freezing against my sweat-slicked skin. Below, the flashing lights of my private security detail cut through the darkness. The threat was neutralized. The enemy was dead. But the real casualty lay at my feet. Dante. He was propped against the railing, legs sprawled in front of him. His chest was a ruin of torn Kevlar and blood. His breathing was wet, a gurgling rasp that signaled a punctured lung. Sophia knelt beside him. She was weeping, her hands pressing uselessly against the wounds, trying to hold his life inside his body. "Dante, please," she sobbed. "Stay with me." I looked at him. Then I looked at the object lying on the concrete next to his hand. It wasn't a gun. It wasn't a phone. It was a small, matte black rectangle, hardened casing. No brand markings, a satellite uplink device, federal issue. The betrayal hit me harder than the bullet graze on my arm. It was a physical blow to the gut. Dante, my shadow. The man who had guarded my back for 3 years. He wasn't just a traitor. He was the architect of my destruction. He had been cataloging my sins, feeding intel to a handler, waiting for the moment to bury me. I raised my gun. The weight of the Sig Sauer felt familiar. Right. I aimed at his head. Sophia screamed, "No! Dad, don't!" She threw herself over him, shielding his body with hers. She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears and soot, her eyes wild. "He saved me!" She shrieked. "He took the bullets." "He is a rat, Sophia." My voice was dead, flat. "Look at the tech. He is a Fed. I don't care. I love him." The words struck me with the force of a hammer. Love. She loved the traitor. I tightened my grip on the gun. My finger hovered over the trigger. The code was absolute. Rats die. There is no gray area. Luca. Elena's voice boomed over the external speakers, distorted by the emergency system but undeniable. He saved her. I froze. I looked up at the security camera mounted in the corner. "Look at him." Her voice cracked with desperation. "He took 3 bullets for your daughter. Does a rat do that?" I looked back down. Dante was watching me. His eyes were dimming, glazing over, but they were clear. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't begging. He was resigned. He had known this moment would come. He had known the cost of loving my daughter. And he had paid it. "He spared me, Luca," Elena continued, her voice softer now, pleading through the static. "In the desert. He let me go. The debt is paid. The debt." I looked at the black device on the ground, the proof of his lie. Then I looked at my daughter. The fierce, terrifying loyalty in her eyes. The way she clung to him, defying me, defying death. She reminded me of Elena. She reminded me of myself. I lowered the gun. The tension in the air snapped like a taut wire. Sophia collapsed against Dante's chest, sobbing in relief. I holstered the weapon. I bent down and picked up the satellite device. It felt heavy, dense with secrets. I crushed it in my hand. The plastic housing shattered, the internal chips snapping under the pressure. I walked to the railing and threw the pieces over the edge. They disappeared into the darkness of the city below. "Get the medics," I ordered. Sophia looked up, hope dawning on her face. "Thank you. Oh God, thank you." I looked at Dante. "The agent died in the shootout," I said. My voice was low, meant only for him. Dante nodded weakly. A ghost of a smile touched his bloodied lips. "The man works for me now." I turned away. I walked back into the penthouse. Elena was waiting in the doorway of the library. She was limping slightly, holding her ribs, but she was standing. I pulled her into my arms. I buried my face in her hair, breathing in the scent of smoke, lavender, and survival. "It's over," I murmured against her neck. She nodded, her hand gripping the back of my ruined shirt. "It's over." 3 days later. The fortress was still a construction zone. Crews worked around the clock to repair the damage, to scrub the scorch marks from the marble, to replace the glass. I stood in my office, looking out at the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and purple. The bruise on the horizon matched the ones on my soul. The door opened. Elena walked in. She looked better. The swelling in her face had gone down. Her bruises were fading to a sickly yellow, and her hand was in a clean cast. She carried a tablet. "I transferred the funds," she said. I turned. "What funds?" "The money, the 500 million. I moved it to a clean account, untraceable. The FBI can't touch it. Even if they investigate the attack, the money trail leads to a dead end in the Cayman Islands." I smiled. "You are good at this. I had a good teacher." She placed the tablet on the desk. "So, what happens now?" The question hung in the air. I walked around the desk. I stopped in front of her. "Marco is dead. The debt is paid." She nodded, her expression guarding her thoughts. "I know. You are free, Elena. You can leave. You can take a cut of the money, hell, take half of it, and go anywhere in the world." She looked down at her hands. "Is that what you want?" "Number." I reached out. I tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet my gaze. "I want you to stay." She searched my face, looking for the catch. "As what? Your hacker? Your prisoner? My partner?" I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a small velvet box. I opened it. The ring was a solitaire diamond, flawless, sharp. It caught the dying light of the sun and refracted it into a spectrum of fire. "Marry me." Her breath hitched. Her eyes widened. "Marry me, and I will spend the rest of my life making up for that night in the desert. I will spend every day earning you." She looked at the ring, then she looked at me. A slow, genuine smile spread across her face. "It's about time." She took the ring. She slid it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I pulled her into my arms. I kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was possessive, consuming. It was a vow sealed in breath and blood. The monster had found his queen, and the debt of silence was finally paid in full.
Epilogue. Elena. The Sicilian sun was heavy on my skin. It smelled of lemon groves and salt water, a world away from the ozone and copper tang of Las Vegas. I stood on the terrace of Luca's ancestral villa. The stone beneath my feet was ancient, warmed by centuries of Mediterranean light. Below, the sea crashed against the cliffs, a rhythmic heartbeat that soothed the lingering anxiety in my bones. It had been a month since the siege. A month since Dante died and was reborn. A month since I walked out of a shipping container covered in my father's blood and into Luca's arms. The healing was slow. My ribs still ached when the weather turned. The scars on my fingers were fading to white lines, a permanent reminder of the price of silence. But I was here. Footsteps sounded on the stone. Heavy. Familiar. I didn't turn. I knew his cadence. I knew the weight of his presence before he even touched me. Luca came up behind me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. He was solid. Real. Thinking too hard. He murmured into my hair. Just enjoying the view. I leaned back into him. It is beautiful here. It is yours. I turned in his arms. He looked relaxed. The tension that usually lived in his shoulders was gone. The lines around his eyes had softened. He wore a linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, the top buttons undone to reveal the tan skin of his throat. He looked like a man who had put down his sword. He held up a tablet. I took it. The screen displayed a bank transfer confirmation. Marco's debt, he said. Paid in full. I looked at the number. 0. And the principal. Transferred to a blind trust in your name. $5 million. My breath hitched. $5 million. That was the price Marco had put on my life. Why? I asked. Because you earned it. You saved my empire, Elena. You saved my daughter. That money is yours. You are free. Free. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Free to leave, free to run, free to disappear into the world and never look back at the violence and the darkness of the Vitti life. I looked at him. At the green eyes that had watched me sleep for weeks. At the mouth that had kissed my scars. Is that what you want? I asked. You want me to leave? His hands tightened on my waist. No. The word was a growl. I want you to stay. Then why give me the money? Because I don't want you here because you have to be. I want you here because you choose to be. He took the tablet from my hands and set it on the stone wall. He reached into his pocket. My heart hammered against my ribs. He pulled out a small velvet box. He didn't kneel. Luca Vitti didn't kneel for anyone. But he looked at me with a vulnerability that brought me to my knees. I have spent my life collecting debts, Elena. I thought everything had a price. I thought loyalty was something you bought with fear or money. He opened the box. The diamond was flawless, a solitaire that caught the fire of the setting sun. You taught me that the only things that matter are the things you can't buy. He took my hand. His thumb traced the white line on my index finger, the mark of my silence. He lifted my hand and pressed his lips to the scar, a silent, eternal apology. Marry me. I stared at him. The man who had kidnapped me, the man who had ordered my execution, the man who had burned the world down to bring me back. I promise you it won't be easy, he said. My life is dangerous. It is violent. But I swear to you, as long as I have breath in my lungs, you will never face it alone. I looked at the ring. Then I looked at him. I thought about the fear, the pain, the darkness. And then I thought about the way he held me when I woke up screaming from nightmares. The way he looked at Sophia and Dante, now living openly in the guest house, safe under his protection. I thought about the love that had grown in the cracks of our broken lives. I took the ring from the box. No more 24-hour contracts, Luca, I said, my voice steady. This one is permanent. He smiled. It was the first time I had seen him smile without a shadow behind it. a true, genuine smile that lit up his face. I slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. He pulled me into him. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was possessive. Consuming. It tasted of forever. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. The debt was paid. The silence was broken. And as I stood on the edge of the world with the monster who loved me, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't a prisoner anymore. I was a queen, and this was just the beginning.